Chapter 558. You two, take him away and keep a close eye on him. Zhong Zhenguang said to the two he brought. Yes. These two were also Daoist-level experts. Watching over Yaroifeng, who had lost his Zhen Yuan, was a piece of cake. They immediately stepped forward and pulled him away. Before leaving, Yaroifeng shot a venomous glance at Yi Chen, as if he wanted to imprint the latter in his eyes. However, Yi Chen didn't feel anything and remained indifferent. Yi Chen, this is the first time we've met. You're much more outstanding than I imagined. Zhong Zhenguang revealed a faint smile and said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen faintly smiled and casually asked, Hall Leader Zhong, I wonder how you'll punish him. A Sea of Soul Master should be very important to Dragon God Celestial Palace, right? Sea of Soul Masters were not cabbages. If a 6th grade sect had a Sea of Soul Master, they would become one of the peak 6th grade sects. For 5th grade sects, the number of Sea of Soul Masters was also the key to their comprehensive strength. Using the words of Yi Chen's world, Life and Death Kings were nuclear weapons, while Sea of Soul Masters were guided missiles. Nuclear weapons couldn't be used casually, so guided missiles became the main weapons, each having their own uses. Zhong Zhenguang said, since he did something wrong, he has to atone for it. His crime isn't worthy of death. Therefore, I'll report to the higher-ups and send him to Blood Battle Ocean. He'll render meritorious service for Dragon God Celestial Palace and atone for his crimes. Blood Battle Ocean? Yi Chen could feel the killing intent in this name. Zhong Zhenguang smiled. Blood Battle Ocean is rich in resources. All the major forces of Eastern Shallow Ocean have their troops stationed there. It's a cruel place. Faintly nodding, Yi Chen was clear that when it came to the fight for resources, it would be hard to not be cruel. Yi Chen, what's your strength? Zhong Zhenguang suddenly asked. Yi Chen pondered for a moment, then said, without using the Thunder Disaster Sword, I should be able to contend against ordinary Sea of Soul Masters. However, if I were to encounter an ordinary Sea of Soul Master with an extremely fast speed, I would be at a disadvantage. Defense had always been Yi Chen's weakness. Facing a Sea of Soul's Realm Master level warrior with a fast speed, this weakness would be magnified. You are at the peak of early Sea of Soul Realm, and you haven't trained any defensive profound sense martial skills. So, it is inevitable that your defense will be low. Actually, Zhong Zhenguang was already very surprised. There were 3 criteria to be a master-level Sea of Soul's Realm warrior. First, a late Sea of Soul's Realm cultivation. Second, a couple of low-rank profound sense martial arts and 1 mid-rank profound sense martial art. Third, a rank 4 martial spirit. Of course, since some people were special in certain areas, even if one of the 3 did not meet the criteria, they could still be considered as a master-level warrior as long as their overall power was enough. Yi Chen's cultivation and profound sense martial arts did not meet the criteria, but with only his powerful sword spirit, he was able to enter the master-level warrior realm. It was not hard to imagine how powerful he was. This kind of genius is hard to find in the whole world. No wonder Palace Master would list him as the number 1 seed of Dragon God Celestial Palace. Even Li Xiaoling and the rest are ranked behind him. Li Xiaoling was one of the candidates for Yellow Dragon Hall's deputy. His overall strength might not be as good as Yi Chen's, but he was strong in all aspects. His cultivation base was at the peak of mid-Sea of Soul Realm, and he was already studying mid-rank profound sense martial skills. His martial spirit was at the 4th rank. Originally, Zhong Zhenguang was more optimistic about Li Xiaoling. However, after seeing Yi Chen, he changed his opinion. In comparison, Yi Chen was younger, and his potential was greater. Especially his sword spirit, it was simply world-shaking. Once he matured in other aspects, his accomplishments would be astonishing. Yaroifeng, this matter was an accident. I hope you don't take it to heart. Many people of my Dragon God Celestial Palace attach great importance to you. Zhong Zhenguang said with a stern expression. Yi Chen laughed involuntarily. Hall Master Zhong is overthinking things. When the forest is big, there are all kinds of birds. I won't take this matter to heart. It's good that you can think this way. Zhong Zhenguang let out a sigh of relief. He had long heard of Yi Chen's character, and after seeing it today, he felt that it was true. Yi Chen recalled the matter of Murong Qingqing's mother and said with a frown, "Hall Master Zhong, how long will the shadowless poison flare up?" Zhong Zhenguang's face turned cold. The shadowless poison is one of the most mysterious poisons under the heavens. After being poisoned, it becomes traceless and formless, making it impossible to find the source. Precisely because of this, the shadowless poisons flare up a bit later. It won't be fatal immediately, but once it does, nobody can save it, including life and death kings. The duration of the shadowless poison's flare-up is related to the grade of the poisoned person's spirit body. If a Sea of Soul Realm expert with a first-step spirit body is poisoned, it will be fatal in 3 days. If a second-step spirit body is poisoned, it will be 10 days, and a third-step spirit body is 1 month. As for martial artists under Sea of Soul Realm, it will be impossible to save them in 1 day. 1 month. Su Ruhui had a third-step spirit body, which meant that she only had a month to live. They had to find a way to save her within a month. Then, is there any way for life and death kings to save her? Zhong Zhenguang shook his head. I don't know either. The shadowless poison is extremely rare, and very few people are poisoned. Therefore, there is no precedent. However, I think that even if life and death kings can't save her, they should be able to delay the flare-up of the poison. Delay the flare-up. Is Senior Dragon King in the Dragon God Celestial Palace? The first person Yi Chen thought of was Dragon King. Without a choice, he could only consider it as owing Dragon King another favor. Zhong Zhenguang smiled bitterly. I won't hide it from you. Palace Master is currently in closed-door training. Nobody knows where he went. Moreover, you should have heard that Palace Master's age has already surpassed 1,000 years, breaking the limit of human kings. This is his second closed-door training, and we're all very worried. Hearing these words, Yi Chen creased his brows. Sure enough, breaking the limit of human life was not that easy. Even Dragon King was in closed-door training, so one could easily imagine how difficult it was. This should be a secret, right? Yi Chen didn't understand why Zhong Zhenguang would say this. Palace Master's closed-door training is not a secret. Many people are waiting for him to fail. Of course, before he fails, they won't dare to make a move. Yi Chen, actually, you don't have to go to Palace Master. In terms of saving people, Xianhu is much more skilled than Palace Master. I think if you go to Xianhu should agree. Yi Chen's talent was impossible for Xianhu not to notice. If Yi Chen went, he would be more useful than anyone else. Moreover, Xianhu and Dragon King had a good relationship, so it was impossible for Xianhu not to give face to Dragon King. Pausing for a bit, Zhong Zhenguang continued, Xuanho's sect is in Sky Martial Region's Phoenix Cry Mountain. It's not too far from here, about 7 million li away. You can make it back in time. However, you have to be careful on the way. If there is nothing urgent, I can go with you. Every time Dragon King entered closed-door training, Dragon God Celestial Palace would be busier than usual. Zhong Zhenguang had rushed over despite his busy schedule, which showed how much importance he attached to Yi Chen. Of course, it was not impossible for him to go with Yi Chen. However, Dragon King had instructed him to let Yi Chen experience more pressure. He shouldn't care about such a trivial matter. No need to trouble Palace Master Zhong. I will be more cautious by myself. Yi Chen naturally wouldn't trouble Zhong Zhenguang. Taking out a map from his storage ring, Zhong Zhenguang handed it over to Yi Chen and said, "This is the map of Sky Martial Region. Phoenix Cry Mountain is on it. Many thanks." Receiving the map, Yi Chen casually put it in his storage ring. In a spacious and comfortable courtyard of Yellow Dragon Palace's branch, Murong Jishui and his family were together. Jishui, Qing Cheng, cheer up. I'm not going to die right now. There's still time. Su Ruhui saw Murong Jishui and Murong Qingqing's gloomy expressions and said helplessly. Murong Jishui said, "No matter what, I'll save you, even if I have to risk my life." After 30 years of affection, Murong Jishui had already considered Su Ruhui as a part of him, inseparable. Mother. Murong Qingqing's eyes were bright red. If not for her, her mother wouldn't have been poisoned. She hated Yuan clan, but at the same time, she felt powerless. Pater, pater. Footsteps sounded. Yi Chen walked in from outside. Yi Chen. The three looked over. Yi Chen smiled. Uncle, Murong, there might be a way to cure Auntie's poison. There is. Murong Jishui and Murong Qingqing's eyes brightened. Although they knew that there was no poison in this world that could not be cured, there was a limit to their power. Right now, Yi Chen had undoubtedly brought them a ray of hope, even if it might turn out to be a disappointment in the end. What is it? Murong Jishui asked hopefully. Yi Chen said, tomorrow morning, I will leave for Sky Marshal Region's Phoenix Cry Mountain and ask Shenhu to save Auntie. I think with Xuanho's power, there would be a great chance to cure Auntie. Even if it doesn't work, it would at least delay the outbreak of the poison, giving me time to find the ingredients to make the antidote. Ask Shenhu to save Ru Hui. Murong Jishui was shocked. Shenhu had taken good care of the Demi family, but it was not limited to the Murong family. Even the abstruse bead that she gave to his daughter Qingcheng was sent over by someone else. She did not come here personally. It could be seen that she only regarded her daughter Qingcheng as a genius that could be cultivated, unlike the Dragon King who valued Yi Chen. After all, how many Yi Chens were there in this world? Of course, if there was no other way, they could only ask Qingcheng to look for Shenhu. Now that Yi Chen said that he was going to look for Shenhu, it undoubtedly increased the hope. Yi Chen's current achievements were already so shocking, in a few years, there would be no one who would not pay attention to him. It was very likely that he would become the future Sword King, or even the Sword Emperor. That's right, the Dragon King is currently in closed-door training. Palace head Zhong asked me to look for Shenhu. Yi Chen nodded. Then I'll leave it to you. Oh right, I'll go with you. Murong Jishui recalled that Yi Chen was also a target of public criticism and was somewhat worried. Who knew, someone might launch a sneak attack on him. Yi Chen shook his head and said, Uncle, you stay here and accompany Auntie. I alone am enough. In fact, he was worried that he would not be able to save Su Ruhui. And if he could not save her, this would be the last time Su Ruhui and Murong Jishui could be together. Yi Chen, be careful. Murong Qingcheng was currently still at the peak of late astral reaching realm. If she went with Yi Chen, she would only be a burden. She inwardly decided that she had to enter the Sea of Soul realm as soon as possible. Otherwise, the distance between her and Yi Chen would only grow further and further, and she would not be able to protect the family. I will. Yi Chen gave Murong Qingcheng a reassuring glance. Chapter 559. On the second morning, Yi Chen departed. The journey to the Sky Marshal Region's Phoenix Cry Mountain was more than 7 million li. Even if he rode the flying puppet and flew day and night, it would still take him dozens of days. If it were in the past, dozens of days would not be a big deal for him. But now, every extra day he spent would mean more danger for Su Ruhui. High up in the sky, the rock-shaped flying puppet spread its wings and shot out. Each breath could cover 6 to 7 li, leaving a blade-like air current behind it. Sitting cross-legged on the back of the puppet, Yi Chen was not in the mood to look at the sea of clouds on both sides. He focused on training. During the battle with Yuan Lai, the latter had brought him a lot of pressure. Under this pressure, his spirit, qi, and soul had all made a breakthrough, becoming as sharp as a sword and as sharp as gold. He had comprehended the essence of the gold profound, which allowed him to bring his gold resonant radiant sword art from 90% completion to completion. In terms of power, the gold resonant radiant sword art at completion was not below the void shattering finger art. If it were used with the thunder disaster sword, its power would be even greater than the void shattering finger art. It would be his number one ace attack. However, his biggest ace had been exposed, and his power had become transparent. For Yi Chen, it would be very dangerous. Perhaps, someone had already investigated his power and sent someone to ambush him. Therefore, although the completion of the gold resonant radiant sword art was a good thing, he could not be complacent, because complacency was a sign of failure. If he was lucky, he might still have a chance to recover, but if he was unlucky, he would fall and become a shooting star among the countless geniuses of the continent. Although it would be bright and dazzling, it would only last for a second. The void-shattering finger art cannot be improved in a short period of time. From the space mentality to the space profound, the difficulty is way beyond my imagination. I'm afraid it will not be as easy as cultivating the gold resonant radiance sword art to completion. However, if I can enter the deep void and observe the space power from a close distance, it will be a whole different story. Amaranthine nature is the advanced profound sword movement of the Green Lotus sword arts, and its level of subtlety is quite impressive. Once the sword is thrust out, it can accelerate through the air, making the actual sword speed faster than the naked eye can see, giving the opponent no time to react. However, the amaranthine nature is more exquisite, but its power is still not enough. It is a bit lacking as an ace attack. In terms of sword movements, besides the gold resonant radiance sword art, only the Sky Thundercut and the reverse Sky Thundercut can be used as ace attacks. These two attacks, one positive and the other negative, stacked together, would increase their power exponentially. Under the condition of 70% completion, the two attacks would be as powerful as the 90% gold resonant radiance sword art. If it could reach 80% completion, it would probably surpass the completed gold resonant radiance sword art and become the #1 ace attack. After quickly going through all the sword moves he had learned in his mind, Yi Chen made a decision. Next, he would use all his strength to break through Sky Thundercut and reverse Sky Thundercut. Of course, it didn't mean that he would give up on the other sword moves, but he would focus on these two moves. The Sky Thundercut is my own creation, and it would be quite troublesome to learn. There is no clear path, so I would have to figure it out by myself. But these two attacks have enough potential, so it would be worth it to sacrifice some time. Let's see if I can learn something in these 10 days. Unknowingly, the flying puppet had carried Yi Chen far away from the ancient wind city. Hehe, it is time to make my move. 100 miles behind the flying puppet, a black shadow suddenly increased its speed. From 10 times the speed of sound, it reached 20 times the speed of sound. The instantaneous acceleration had caused the air in the surroundings to be unable to handle the pressure and explode. A circle of perfect space patterns spread out. 80 miles, 50 miles, 10 miles. Brat, stop right there. After chasing for 10 miles, the black shadow that was wrapped in light reached out one of his hands. That hand clenched into a fist and punched out toward where Yi Chen was standing. Back. Yi Chen did not even look back as his body jumped into the air. The flying puppet below him turned into a beam of shadow and disappeared from where it was. The next second, the space started to shake, and a blurry fist mark was left in the surreal space, looking extremely aggressive. Turning around in the air, Yi Chen looked at the approaching black shadow and said sarcastically, "You have waited until now to make your move. It must have been hard on you. You knew." The newcomer was wearing a black mask, which had the effect of blocking out soul power. Right then, he sounded a bit surprised. "You guessed it right." A silver light appeared in Yi Chen's pupils. His invisible soul power went through the black mask and saw the real face of the newcomer. Sure enough, it is a Sea of Soul Master warrior who went to the Yuan family to congratulate them. He seems to be called Tyrant Fist Master. He is a loner without any family or sect, and has only recently arrived in the Jiyulan region. He has a good relationship with the head elder of the Yuan family, Yuan Jin. This person specializes in fist arts, which are very aggressive. That day, there were 7 Sea of Soul Master warriors who went to the Yuan family. 1 from the Jiyulan sect, 3 from the other big sects, 1 from Yaoifeng, 1 from Murongji Shui, and 1 from this Tyrant Fist Master. Apart from Yaoifeng and Murongji Shui, Yi Chen also had some information on the other 5. You guessed right, but there is no reward. Tyrant Fist Master's exposed eyes released a cold killing intent. Yi Chen's strength was similar to Yuan Lai's, and his half-step extreme rank sword was only slightly higher. On the other hand, his strength was the same as Yuan Jin's. His Dugu Tyrant Fist art was even more aggressive, which specialized in breaking through protective Jin Yuan. Therefore, in his eyes, Yi Chen was already a dead man. Once he killed him, his wealth and half-step extreme rank sword would all be his. It doesn't matter if I don't get a reward, but you must get one. Otherwise, wouldn't you have wasted your trip? Yi Chen said indifferently. Courting death. Tyrant Fist Master roared as his body swooped down, throwing out a punch. It was an extremely simple punch without any fancy moves. However, in the hands of Tyrant Fist Master, it was no longer ordinary. The aggressive fist intent pierced through the clouds without any hindrance. Yi Chen's expression turned serious. The air around him turned viscous under the fist intent, as if the void had been frozen. Void-shattering finger. Yi Chen pointed out his finger. Wherever his blue finger went, the sticky air had been dispelled, as if the snow in the spring had been melted by the hot sun. Peng! The blue finger and the aggressive fist shadow clashed together, causing the space to ripple and blur. Even soul power was greatly affected. Yellow dragon sealing great art. Throwing out a finger attack, Yi Chen suddenly took out a yellow light ball, which floated in front of his chest. Yi Chen formed a spell with both of his hands. As he did so, a dark yellow light started to move within the yellow light ball, looking like a furious dragon. Buzz! The yellow light ball shook once, and a yellow dragon shadow broke out of it. It ignored the chaotic chi flow between the two and flew above Tyrant Fistmaster's head. The dragon shadow's tail hung down while its head was raised up high, bearing its fangs and claws like a totem. Ah! Yellow dragon sealing great art. Tyrant Fistmaster was already within 100 meters of Yi Chen. Seeing the yellow dragon shadow, he looked like he had seen a ghost, his face full of fear. Seal. Yi Chen did not give his opponent any chance. He finished forming the spell, and the yellow dragon shadow shone with dozens of light dots. As the light dots lit up, the yellow dragon shadow suddenly shrunk down, ignoring the protective Zhenyuan layer and entering his body. The whole process could only be described as lightning fast. No. My Zhenyuan. Tyrant Fistmaster did not expect that Yi Chen would learn the yellow dragon sealing great art in one night, and even get the Dragon Ball. If he had known that Yi Chen had learned the yellow dragon sealing great art, he would not have dared to attack Yi Chen. Even if he wanted to, he would have to keep his distance and not give his opponent a chance to lock onto him. The yellow dragon sealing great art was a secret of the Dragon God Celestial Palace, and it was also one of the reasons why the palace was able to dominate the world. Yi Chen, give me a chance. I will leave immediately and not trouble you anymore. My Tyrant Fistmaster will never go back on his words. In his extreme panic, Tyrant Fistmaster even revealed his identity. But it did not matter anymore at this point. Nothing was more important than his life. Yi Chen sneered, "If I am captured by you, will you let me go? As long as you release the yellow dragon sealing great art, I am willing to work like a horse for you." Having a master level C of Soul's Realm as your slave is something that many geniuses do not have. Tyrant Fistmaster sounded very sincere, but his eyes were filled with killing intent. What was supposed to be in the bag had now become his slave. He could not accept it. "All right, I will release you right now." Stepping on the air, Yi Chen walked over step by step. No. Tyrant Fistmaster could sense the killing intent coming from Yi Chen's body. Pushing out the Zhenyuan that was not completely sealed, he tried to escape. Shoo! Yi Chen caught up with him, his gold sword piercing through his head. "I hate this." Before he died, Tyrant Fistmaster's face was full of regret. Taking away his storage ring, Yi Chen threw out a punch, and the dead body of the Tyrant Fistmaster was instantly destroyed, leaving nothing behind. Yellow dragon sealing great art. So horrifying. Yi Chen stared at the dim yellow light ball in his hand, feeling a bit shocked. It was Zhong Zhenguang who had taught him the yellow dragon sealing great art. Of course, it was the will of the Dragon King. As the secret art of the Dragon God Celestial Palace, it was not that hard to learn, since it did not have much of a secret. All he had to do was use his soul power and Zhenyuan to activate the sealing power in the Dragon Ball. With a bit of guidance, he would be able to complete the seal. However, learning the yellow dragon sealing great art did not mean that he would be able to seal others. Without the Dragon Ball, it would be impossible, and the Dragon Ball was given to him by the Dragon King himself. According to Zhong Zhenguang, there were not more than 10 people in the palace who had Dragon Balls. The fact that he was able to get one meant that the Dragon King trusted him, since not every one of the 5 palace leaders had one. As for the power of the Dragon Ball, it was not limitless. In fact, without replenishment, one ball could only perform the yellow dragon sealing great art once. For example, Zhong Zhengguang had performed the yellow dragon sealing great art on Yaoifeng, and that ball had been destroyed temporarily. As for how to replenish it, Yi Chen did not know. There were a few key points to perform the yellow dragon sealing great art. First, the opponent had to be within 100 meters. Second, the soul power had to be more powerful than the opponent, since the sealing power of the Dragon Ball depended on the soul power of the user. The more powerful the user's soul power, the more powerful the sealing power would be. Third, when performing the yellow dragon sealing great art, it could not be interrupted. Once it was interrupted, the user would be attacked by the sealing power, which would be very serious. Therefore, it could only be used for one-on-one. Chapter 560. Shu. The flying puppet shot out of the storage ring as Yi Chen jumped onto it and sat with his legs crossed. He then pushed it to fly at a high speed, pushing its speed to its limit. This Tyrant Fist Master is a bit richer than Murong Wang. He has 400,000 top-rank spirit stones and 3 top-rank weapons. But, he does not have any extreme rank spirit stones. Inserting his soul power into the storage ring, Yi Chen smiled lightly. Adding the top-rank spirit stones he had on him, he had 800,000 in total. It was not a small amount, and if he were alone, he would be one of the top warriors among Master Level C of Soul's Realm warriors. There was only one region between the Jiyulan region and the Sky Marshal region. 5 days later, Yi Chen rode his flying puppet and arrived at the Sky Marshal region. 10 days later, Yi Chen saw the Phoenix Cry Mountain. The Phoenix Cry mountain range was one of the top 3 mountain ranges in the Sky Marshal region, stretching for hundreds of thousands of miles. After flying for half a day, Yi Chen finally arrived at the core area of the mountain range. Once there, Yi Chen had no choice but to come down. In his sight, there were countless mountains that were tens of thousands of meters tall, reaching into the sky like pillars. Yi Chen estimated with his eyes that the shortest one was at least 9,000 meters tall, while the tallest one even reached above the sea of clouds, almost reaching the sky. On top of each of these mountains, there were massive palaces of different sizes, hidden deep within the winding clouds, vaguely visible. In Yi Chen's eyes, each mountain was like a beehive, with black dots flying in and out like busy bees. It is indeed the famous Phoenix Cry Mountain. Even a small mountain here is way more majestic than the Sky Cloud Marshal School's Windy Mountain. Yi Chen was a bit emotional. They were both martial institutions, but the difference was way too huge. Who is coming to my mysterious martial school? From the palace closest to Yi Chen, a red figure flew out. It was as fast as lightning, appearing not far away from Yi Chen within a second. This was a middle-aged man wearing a scarlet red robe with a quaint appearance. From his speed, he was at least an expert of the true human rank. The mountain he was on was only in the middle to lower reaches of the mountain peaks, so it was obvious that he was only in the middle to upper levels. Yi Chen held his fists together and said, "I am Yi Chen from the South Rudra region. I would like to see the leader of the mysterious martial school, Xianhu." The martial school that Xianhu had created was called the Mysterious Martial School, which had more females than males. It was the place that all the female disciples wanted to go. Yi Chen from the Sky Cloud Martial School from the South Rudra region? The middle-aged man in red had heard of Yi Chen before. Of course, it was not because Yi Chen's fame had spread all the way to the Sky Marshal region. In fact, in the Sky Marshal region, Yi Chen did not have any fame at all. The only reason he knew about Yi Chen was because the leader had mentioned Yi Chen in a meeting a couple of years ago. Being mentioned by the leader, how could all the middle and high-level members of the Mysterious Martial School not pay attention to him? Indeed, it is me. I am the leader of the Fire Cloud Mountain, Zhong Dehuo. You wait in the palace and have a cup of tea. I will go inform the leader. The Fire Cloud Mountain was one of the 36 peaks of the Mysterious Martial School, and it was also the first line of defense. After knowing about Yi Chen's identity, Zhong Dehuo did not dare to be slow, so he suggested. Yi Chen nodded and followed him towards the Fire Cloud Palace on top of the mountain. After waiting in the palace for a while, Zhong Dehuo returned. Yi Chen, the leader wants to see you. The Mysterious Martial School had 48 important peaks in total. It was called the top 3 peaks, the middle 9 peaks, and the bottom 36 peaks. With Zhong Dehuo leading the way, Yi Chen did not face any obstacles along the way. Soon, he arrived at the main peak of the mysterious martial school. Looking over, the entire mysterious martial school was covered in a layer of crystal-colored mist. Yi Chen knew that it was the great protective spell of the mysterious martial school. It had an amazing defense, and even a life and death realm warrior would not be able to break in within a short period of time. Woo! The crystal-colored mist in front of him separated, revealing a massive crystal door. Zhong Dehuo said, "I will not go in." If there was nothing important, the leader would not be allowed to enter the mysterious martial school. It was the rule of the mysterious martial school. Yi Chen held his fists at Zhong Dehuo before flashing his body and flying in. Passing through the crystal-colored mist, Yi Chen finally realized that the real mysterious martial school was a whole different world. Looking from the inside, it seemed to be much bigger than the outside, as if he had entered another world. Besides that, the spirit qi in this place was very rich, and even the air was a bit moist. With a casual breath, one could feel the spirit qi entering one's body and slowly turning into Jin Yuan. What a great place! Yi Chen praised as he looked at the beautiful female disciple who had just arrived. "You are Yi Chen." This girl was the same as Yi Chen, at peak level early Sea of Soul's realm. She was about 23 or 24 years old. Of course, once one reached the Sea of Soul's realm, one would not be able to tell their age from their appearance. For example, Yi Chen was almost 25 years old, but he looked like he was in his early 20s. Being in someone else's territory, Yi Chen knew that he had to be polite, so he smiled and said, "Indeed. How should I address you, sister disciple? I am the leader's third disciple, Miao Yin. Come with me." The mysterious queen's residence was not on the mysterious peak. Instead, it was in the sky above the mysterious peak. It was a floating mountain, just like the floating mountain. Of course, although this floating mountain of the mysterious sect was not as big as the floating mountain, the materials used were obviously not of the same level. It looked like gold or jade, and contained a horrifying power. It was not something to be underestimated. On top of the floating mountain, there was a pond and a few wooden houses that formed a small manor. Beside the pond, a lady in her 20s was feeding the fish. Her long hair was like a waterfall, reaching all the way to her feet. Her eyes were calm and peaceful. "Miao Yin, you can leave for now." "Yes, teacher." The beautiful female disciple called Miao Yin left with respect. Getting onto the floating mountain, Yi Chen saw Xianhu. Right then, Xianhu was different from the mental power image he had seen in the parallel space battlefield. The mental power image of Xianhu was so beautiful and unforgettable. Right now, Xianhu seemed a lot more reserved and natural. "Senior Xianhu, sorry to disturb you." Xianhu smiled lightly. "My real name is Xianhu Qingxian. You can just call me Senior Yang." "Senior Yang. Is there something you need my help with?" The two were separated by a small pond as Xianhu spoke while feeding the fish. Yi Chen nodded. "It is about Murong Qingcheng." "What happened to her?" Xianhu lifted up her head. She had paid quite a bit of attention to Murong Qingcheng, since she was a good seed. "Murong is fine. However, Murong's mother, Su Ruhui, has been poisoned by the Yuan family's shadowless poison. The only antidote she had was also destroyed by Yuan Jin. Therefore, I would like to ask the mysterious queen for help." Yi Chen told Xianhu his intention. "Yuan family. Shadowless poison. Nonsense." Xianhu was a bit angry. She had tried her best to help the demi-demon family, hoping that the human race would treat them fairly. But there were some demi-demon families that did not want to be united, and were destroying themselves instead. She had heard about the Yuan family's aggressive style, but she had never thought that they would dare to poison their own people. Not to mention, it was one of the most powerful poisons in the world. "Senior, do you have any way to save her?" Yi Chen was quite confident in Xianhu. Besides being powerful, she was also well versed in many other things, especially in saving people's lives. "There are less than 5 different kinds of poisons in the world, and I can save more than 5 different kinds. Unfortunately, the shadowless poison is one of the poisons that I cannot cure. Even Senior Yang cannot cure her." Yi Chen's heart sank. Although there was an antidote for the shadowless poison, finding the ingredients for it was extremely hard. Some of the ingredients were things that he had never even heard of before. Xianhu said, "Don't worry. Although I cannot cure her completely, I can still extend her life for a couple of years." Hearing her, Yi Chen let out a breath. With a couple of years as a buffer, there would be a lot more hope. The shadowless poison is not easy to deal with. You and I will go check it out first. Xianhu waved her palm in the air, and a surreal door appeared on top of the pond. Shoo! Xianhu stepped into it, and Yi Chen followed without hesitation. Deep in the surreal space, the surreal door kept flashing. Each time it flashed, it would be extremely far away. After 15 minutes, the surreal door appeared in the branch of the Yellow Dragon Palace. Walking out of the door, Yi Chen was shocked. Although he knew that life and death realm warriors were powerful and unimaginable, the ancient Wind City was 7 million miles away from the Fengming Mountain. It took him dozens of days to get there, but it only took him 15 minutes to get back. This kind of power was beyond his imagination. Senior Xianhu. Seeing Xianhu and Yi Chen suddenly appear in the room, Murong Qingcheng and Murong Jishui were shocked. Waving her hand, Xianhu looked at Su Ruhui, whose face was a bit pale. "Luckily, we got here early. The poison qi has already started to corrode her body. Senior, please save my wife." Murong Jishui had been very worried for the past couple of days. At first, Su Ruhui was no different from a normal person. But after 10 days, the problem was getting worse and worse. No one knew where the poison came from, but it had started to corrode her body. Even her Jin Yuan could not stop it. "You guys get out," Xianhu said. "Uncle, Murong, let's go out first." Yi Chen dragged the two out. The treatment did not take long. After 15 minutes, the door was opened. Murong Jishui and Murong Qingcheng went in to check. Seeing that Su Ruhui was perfectly fine, they thought that she was completely cured, so they thanked her profusely. Xianhu had a bitter smile on her face. "Don't be too happy yet. The poison is still there. I just let her live for 3 more years. After 3 years, not only would my mysterious sealing art not be able to seal the shadowless poison, it would even become its accomplice, which would speed up her death. No one would be able to save her. Therefore, within 3 years, you guys have to gather all the ingredients for the antidote." Yi Chen said, "Uncle, Murong, you guys do not need to worry too much. 3 years is a long time, and it is more than enough for us to find the antidote. Plus, I already have a couple of ingredients for the antidote, so the rest should be fine." Flipping his left hand, Yi Chen took out a couple of spirit plants, which he got from the herb garden on the Treasure River Island. As for the antidote for the shadowless poison, everyone in the demi-demon family knew about it. Of course, it was impossible for Xianhu not to know about it. Xianhu was not surprised that Yi Chen had these spirit plants. Every genius had their own luck, and without a doubt, Yi Chen's luck would not be any worse than other geniuses. "Yi Chen, from now on, you can travel around the Sky Marshal region. Maybe you can find the ingredients for the antidote." Chapter 561. The Sky Marshal region was the top region of the True Spirit continent. Its area was only slightly smaller than the top 4 regions, but it was way bigger than any of the other regions. The Sky Marshal region was a great place, and some of the rare spirit plants and medicines could be found in the outside world. It was said that the undead tree was in the Sky Marshal region, but unfortunately, no one knew where it was, not even Shu King or Xianhu. After all, there were still too many unknown places. Hearing Xianhu say that she wanted him to go to the Sky Marshal region, Yi Chen nodded. The Sky Marshal region was a sacred place for all the martial geniuses, so there was no reason for him not to go. With his power right now, he might be able to make a name for himself. The situation in the Sky Marshal region is complicated. After you get there, come to the Phoenix Cry Mountain first. Xianhu could tell that Yi Chen did not want to go right now, so she waved her right hand and walked into the surreal door made of space power. Shoo! She disappeared without a trace. Waiting until Xianhu left, Murong Jishui sighed. "The shadowless poison is a special poison created by my demi-demon family. I cannot believe that I would have to use it on my wife one day. Yi Chen comforted him, "Uncle, if you trust me, I will take care of the antidote. 3 years is long enough. I'll leave it to you then." There were a lot of materials to make the antidote, so Murongji Shirei could only hope that Yi Chen would be lucky all the time. Now that it is done, let's go back to the South Rudra region. Yi Chen had already thought about going back to the Sky Marshal region, so he was ready to say goodbye. Of course. Murongji Shirei nodded. The leader of the Yellow Dragon Palace, Zhong Zhengguang, had already left. Yi Chen and the group said goodbye to Wang Shi and Yang Kuei, then got on the red-eyed bird and started their journey back to the South Rudra region. Yi Chen had to admit that the red-eyed vicious bird was indeed a bit slow. If the distance was only a few million miles, it would still be manageable. But if it was more than that, it would take way too long. Without a choice, Yi Chen took out the 2 flying puppets. The flying puppets seemed to be only twice as fast as the red-eyed vicious bird, but it would save them twice as much time. Without it, the flying puppets did not need to rest at all. How could they not be fast after flying day and night? Around 20 days later, the group returned to the Murong clan. "When I reach the Sea of Souls realm, I will go to the Sky Marshal region to find you." Murong Qingcheng knew that the gap between her and Yi Chen was just too huge. Only by reaching the Seas of Souls realm would she be able to close the gap. Otherwise, she would only be a burden if she went. But her advantage was not that small either. Once she trained a part of the demon power essence, she would be able to reach peak level early Seas of Souls realm at least. Mid Seas of Souls realm might even be possible, since the demon power essence was the essence of the demon power inside the demon's body. Every bit of it contained a huge amount of demon power, which would benefit her greatly. There's no rush. It's best to consolidate your cultivation first. How could Yi Chen not know about Murong Qingcheng's advantage? Once she reached the Sea of Souls realm, she would be at least at the spirit warrior level, which would be a huge advantage. But the Sky Marshal region was not like any other place. It was the holy land of martial geniuses, gathering all the top martial geniuses of the whole continent. Yes. Murong Qingcheng pursed her lips. Although her relationship with Yi Chen had not reached the point of intimacy, it was not far from it. They just needed to spend more time together. "I will leave this flying puppet to you. I will need it in the future." Flipping his wrist, the leopard-shaped flying puppet appeared, floating in the air between the two. Yi Chen smiled as he looked at her, not hiding his emotions at all. A slight blush appeared on her face as Murong Qingcheng's bright eyes contained a hint of affection. On the way back to the Windy Nation, Yi Chen took out the Dragon Ball. So, the Dragon Ball's power can be replenished automatically. I wonder when it will be fully replenished. It had been more than a month since he had performed the Yellow Dragon sealing great art for the first time. During this time, the Dragon Ball had slowly recovered its color, and was no longer dim. The Yellow Dragon sealing great art is easy to learn, but it is extremely hard to master. Although it seemed easy to deal with the Tyrant Fist Master, it is actually because my soul power is powerful enough. Zhong Zhengguang's soul power was way weaker than Yi Chen's, but he was still able to make Yao Ifeng unable to fight back at all. On the other hand, Yi Chen's soul power was 4 to 5 times that of Zhong Zhengguang's. When he sealed the Tyrant Fist Master, he still managed to leave a bit of Jin Yuan behind. This was the gap between them, and it was not just a small one. Shoo! The flying puppet disappeared into the horizon. The endless mountain range in front of him was getting bigger and bigger. Sitting on the flying puppet, Yi Chen could see the Fire Cloud Mountain, one of the 36 mountains under the mysterious martial school. This time, I am afraid I will be staying in the Sky Marshal region for a long time. Back in the South Rudra region, Yi Chen stayed at his family for a couple of days before saying goodbye to his parents again and leaving for the Phoenix Cry Mountain in the Sky Marshal region. Last time, he had come in a hurry, so Yi Chen did not have the time to observe the mountain properly. This time, he realized that there was a light desolate qi mixed in the mountain range, which meant that the mountain range had a very long history, dating back to the ancient era. Chirp! A bright bird chirp was heard. Yi Chen's expression changed slightly as he felt his blood flow increase. This bird. Yi Chen looked over and could see a huge blue bird flying in the sky on the side of the Fire Cloud Mountain. The huge bird's wings were 7 to 8 meters long, and there was a crown-like feather on its head. There were also 3 distinctive tri-colored feathers behind its tail, which made it look like the king of the birds. The descendant of the phoenix. Blue phoenix. Yi Chen gasped. He did not expect to see a blue phoenix in the Phoenix Cry mountain range. It was not a normal beast. Judging on potential, it was even more powerful than Sun Xiaojin from the water ape race. It was a top-rank beast, which was equal to the 9-headed snake. In other words, once it matured, it would be at least a top-rank 10 beast, and it would have a huge chance of becoming a beast king. Plus, the higher the potential of the beast, the more powerful it would be. With the blue phoenix's potential, it would be able to beat any beast at the same rank, including Sun Xiaojin. It was a beast that was famous even in the ancient era. Shoo! The blue phoenix flapped its wings and jumped toward Yi Chen, its feather crown burning with blue flame. Yi Chen's expression changed. This blue phoenix was at rank 9, and he did not know why it was flying toward him. "You are Yi Chen?" When it was dozens of meters away, the blue phoenix suddenly stopped and spoke in human language. It was a female voice. Indeed. Yi Chen was a bit confused. It was not like he had not seen beasts that could speak human language before. The water ape race was one of them, but they were similar to humans, so it was not strange for them to speak. "I am the head disciple of the leader, Yang Fengfeng. Nice to meet you," the blue phoenix said. "So it's senior sister Yang." Yi Chen cupped his fists together. "He, follow me. Master is waiting for you." With a wave of her tail, Yang Fengfeng turned around and flapped her wings, moving at an extreme speed. Such a fast speed. Yi Chen increased his speed to 90% before he could barely catch up with her. Seeing how relaxed she looked, he guessed that she had only used half of her speed. Yang Fengfeng wanted to test Yi Chen's speed. Her blue wings flapped slightly, and her speed increased again. It was so fast that it did not even look real. Sword light flying spell. Yi Chen bit on his teeth as a sharp sword light shot out of his body. The sword light flashed once before carrying his body and shooting out, chasing after Yang Fengfeng. "Not bad. You can barely catch up with me by half," Yang Fengfeng said shockingly. "What?" Yi Chen was shocked. Right then, he had even performed his sword light flying spell, which was more than 20 times the speed of sound. But it was only half of her speed. Yang Fengfeng chuckled. "Don't be surprised. Among the young generation of the Sky Marshal region, I might not be the most powerful. But, speaking of speed, if I say I am number 2, no one would dare to say they are number 1. You are only at peak level early Sea of Soul's realm, but you already have master level speed. It is already very impressive. It seems like I have to perfect my sword light flying spell." Even though she had said it like that, Yi Chen could not help but feel emotional. Being twice as fast as him. What kind of concept was that? It would be like being born unbeatable. Below the life and death realm, no one would be able to catch up with Yang Fengfeng. As for the sword light flying spell, it seemed a bit outdated in his eyes. At astral reaching realm, the speed of the sword light flying spell was almost as fast as the attacking speed. But, at the Sea of Soul's realm, it was still far away from the attacking speed, since he was only at the astral reaching realm when he created it. Soon, Yi Chen and Yang Fengfeng arrived at the mysterious peak. "You are here." Xuanho's voice was heard. At the same time, a guiding power covered him and Yang Fengfeng, bringing them directly to the floating mountain above the mysterious peak. "Senior Yang, Master." Xianhu nodded and looked at Yi Chen. "Although you are not my disciple, the old Dragon King and I have always treated you as one. Don't be too reserved." "Thank you, Senior Yang." Fengfeng, it is Yi Chen's first time in the Sky Marshal region, so he is not clear about some of the rules. "You take him to the Sky Marshal Pavilion and leave your name there." "Yes." Yang Fengfeng nodded, the blue flame on her feather crown spinning around. Sky Marshal Pavilion? Yi Chen was indeed not clear about the rules of the Sky Marshal region, since the Battle King's life information was way too much. Therefore, he only had a part of the Battle King's memory. Also, this time, there are a couple of disciples from our mysterious martial school who are going to the Sky Marshal Pavilion to leave their names there. I will leave them all to you. Xianhu thought very highly of Yang Fengfeng. Speaking of which, Yang Fengfeng could be counted as her half-daughter. When she first came to the Phoenix Cry Mountain, she did not set up her martial school here. It was not until she found a blue phoenix egg deep under the mountain that she used a secret technique to hatch it that she had Yang Fengfeng. Master, my shape-shifting pellets are almost used up. Yang Fengfeng looked at Xianhu with puppy eyes. Xianhu chuckled as she took out a jade bottle and threw it to her. Use it sparingly. These pellets are not easy to make. Thank you, Master. Yang Fengfeng waved her tail as she opened her mouth to catch the jade bottle. Opening the bottle, a round pellet fell into her mouth and she swallowed it. Woo! A blue light that was like the sun shone brightly. When the green light dissipated, the figure of the Qing Feng was nowhere to be seen. There was only a young woman dressed in green clothes. She had a lithe figure and exquisite facial features. Between her eyebrows was a threatening noble temperament. In the center of her forehead was a feather crown pattern with a green flame burning on it. Brother Yi, nice to meet you. Yang Fengfeng, who had turned into her human form, revealed a smile. Sister Yang, nice to meet you. Yi Chen chuckled. In his human form, it was indeed the first time the two had met each other. All right, you guys can go now. We can leave tomorrow, Xianhu said. Chapter 562. The sun rose in the east. It was already the morning of the second day. On top of a steep mountain on the west side of the mysterious mountain, 3 disciples of the mysterious martial school stood there. Right next to them was an iron feather mysterious eagle. Among the 3 disciples, 2 of them were people Yi Chen had met before. They were the head disciple Yang Fengfeng and the 3rd disciple Miao Yin. The last one was a male disciple with a face as white as jade. He looked to be only 22 or 23 years old, which was the youngest among the 3. As for his real age, it was hard to tell. Head disciple, who is this Yi Chen? Our master is paying so much attention to him, asking you to take him to the Sky Martial Pavilion personally. The male disciple with the white face was called Ling Tianhao, the 4th disciple of the mysterious martial school. His real age was already 27 years old. Of course, to be able to train to peak level early Sea of Soul's realm at 27 years old was already a talent that could not be underestimated even in the Sky Martial region. If it were in the 4 regions, he would be at least one of the top warriors among the young generation. Even in the mysterious martial school, he would be one of the top martial geniuses. Yang Fengfeng laughed. Brother Ling, do not underestimate him. He is the new rising young king warrior of the southern region. His power is definitely not that big of a deal. Young king warrior of the southern region. This does not seem to be that big of a deal, right? It was not that Ling Tianhao looked down on Yi Chen, but in his eyes, the young king warriors of the southern region indeed did not have anything to be proud of, especially in the Sky Martial region. He reached the Sea of Soul's realm at 24 years old. However, what Yang Fengfeng said next made Ling Tianhao's expression change drastically. Everyone knew that the leader of the mysterious martial school, who was also their master, Xianhu, had reached the Sea of Soul's realm at 25 years old. This record had been the first in 1,000 years, and no one had been able to break it for decades. Even the 2 top martial geniuses in the Sky Martial region who were said to be as powerful as their master had only reached the Sea of Soul's realm at 25 years old. They did not break their master's record. He could not imagine that there would be a martial genius in the southern region who was even more talented than their master. Impossible. Ling Tianhao's first reaction was to refuse. Yang Fengfeng sucked in a deep breath. When master told me this news, I didn't believe it either. But master's words carry enormous weight. How could he lie? Hearing Yang Fengfeng telling him that it was her master, Ling Tianhao was still in shock and disbelief. After a long while, he let out a breath slowly. Impressive training talent. Perhaps it is only the training talent. Not necessarily. Yang Fengfeng looked at a black dot flying over. His speed has already reached master level. Whoosh. The black dot quickly enlarged. It was Yi Chen, dressed in blue with a long sword at his waist. Sorry for the wait. Cupping his fists, Yi Chen landed on the top of the mountain. We have just arrived as well. Let me introduce you. This is my third sister disciple, Miao Yin, and this is my fourth brother, Ling Tianhao. Yang Fengfeng introduced. I already know senior sister Miao Yin, but this is my first time meeting senior brother Ling Tianhao. The three of them were all older than him, so it was not shameful for him to call them senior sisters and senior brothers. It is also my first time meeting brother Yi. Please take care of me in the future. After knowing that Yi Chen's training talent was even more powerful than his master, Ling Tianhao did not look down on him anymore. Regardless, training talent was still a kind of talent, and it was the most direct way to reach a higher level. If the training talent was not good enough, then no matter how powerful the other talents were, it would be useless. Let's go. Miao Yin looked very calm, looking more like the head disciple than Yang Fengfeng. In the sky, the iron feather eagle carried the four and flew at an extremely fast speed, reaching 10 times the speed of sound, almost 15 times the speed of sound. The iron feather eagle was a rank 9 beast, and it was known for its speed. If it flew at full speed, it could reach 18 times the speed of sound, which was close to master-level warriors. But of course, traveling for a long time and traveling for a short time were obviously different. One could not just focus on speed, which would only waste time. After all, the iron feather eagle was not a flying puppet, it was made of flesh and blood after all. Judging from the efficiency of traveling for a long time, the iron feather eagle was just like Yi Chen's flying puppet. One was fast, while the other did not need to rest. The Sky Marshal Pavilion is located in the south of the Sky Marshal region, and is called the South Sky Gate. According to the rumors, the Sky Marshal Pavilion has some kind of connection with the Treasure Holy Tower as well. People above 40 would not be able to enter, and people who have not reached the Sea of Souls realm would not be able to enter either. In the middle of the Sky Marshal Pavilion, there is a magical name wall. You can leave 1,000 names on it, and each name can stay there for 10 years. On the back of the iron feather eagle, Yang Fengfeng was explaining the information about the Sky Marshal Pavilion to Yi Chen. Do I have to go there to leave my name? Yi Chen asked. Yang Fengfeng chuckled. Have you heard of this saying before? If you do not enter the South Sky Gate, it means that you have never been to the Sky Marshal region. The reason why the Sky Marshal region is called the sacred place for all the martial geniuses is because of the Sky Marshal Pavilion. Hearing her, Yi Chen smiled weirdly. So, only the young warriors who have reached the Sea of Souls realm would be considered to have been to the Sky Marshal region, and those who have not reached the Sea of Souls realm would be wasting their time. That Xie Zhiqiu was able to make a name for himself in the Sky Marshal region, so he was probably in the young generation. Yi Chen's guess was not wrong. Xie Zhiqiu had indeed only made a name for himself in the young generation of the Sky Marshal region. But when it was expanded to the entire young generation, it would not be worth mentioning at all. It must be really hard to leave one's name on the wall, right? Of course it is. Although the name wall is not really a ranking, it is still very useful as a reference. It includes all the top warriors within the last 10 years. Many of the famous martial geniuses from different regions would not even be able to make it into the top 1,000. Pausing for a second, Yang Fengfeng glanced at Miao Yin and Ling Tianhao and said, therefore, most of the martial geniuses would like to stabilize their power first. Only when they are unable to make it anymore would they go to the Sky Marshal Pavilion to leave their names there, so that it would not be too awkward for them to go there for the first time. Yi Chen thought about it and agreed with her. Reaching the Sea of Souls realm would be the weakest time for warriors of this level, so reaching the peak level of early Sea of Souls realm would be the most important thing. Once one reached the Sea of Souls realm, one's comprehensive ability would increase drastically, so it would be very important to increase one's mastery of profound sense martial arts as well. Right then, Ling Tianhao opened his mouth and said, the name wall is a place to judge one's potential. Being able to make it into the top 1,000 is already very hard, and it would be even harder to make it into the top 100. Once you make it in, the whole Sky Marshal region would know your name. As for the top 10, those would be the top martial geniuses. With Brother Yi's potential, it should not be a problem for you to make it into the top 100. Actually, Ling Tianhao still had some doubts about Yi Chen's potential. Being talented in training was indeed very important, but the other aspects were just as important. In the history of the true spirit continent, there had been some martial geniuses who were talented in training but normal in other aspects. Yi Chen chuckled, but did not say anything. There was still a long way to go before they reached the Sky Martial Pavilion. On the way, the four of them kept chatting. Yi Chen learned from Ling Tianhao that there were 2 disciples from the mysterious martial school who had made it into the top 1,000 on the wall. They were the head disciple, Yang Fengfeng, and the second disciple, Fu Yinhong. Yang Fengfeng's rank was ridiculously high, she was ranked 5th, while Fu Yinhong was a lot lower, ranked 57. Of course, it was a lot lower than Yang Fengfeng's, but in the whole true spirit continent, it was undoubtedly a very high rank. After all, if one's name could stay on the wall for 10 years, then the names of the martial geniuses from 9 years ago would all be shown on it. The Iron Feather Eagle was indeed a rank 9 beast that was known for its speed. After 7 days, the 4 of them had managed to travel from the west side of the Sky Martial region to the south side of the Sky Martial region. On the afternoon of the 7th day, a mountain peak that reached into the sky gradually appeared in front of the 4 of them. It was a mountain peak that looked like a sharp sword. The peak seemed to have been shaved off by a sword, making it very flat. On top of the peak stood a magnificent building. On the door, there were 3 huge words written in a domineering style, Sky Martial Pavilion. We are here. There are quite a lot of people there, and a couple of familiar faces. Yang Fengfeng's eyesight was extremely powerful. Even from dozens of miles away, she could still see the people there clearly. She could even tell the faces of the people there. Seeing the Sky Martial Pavilion, Ling Tianhao's breathing was a bit heavier than usual. Obviously, he was not feeling calm at all. Miao Yin, who had been calm all the way, could not help it either. A bit of fighting spirit shone out from deep in her eyes. Only Yang Fengfeng and Yi Chen did not have much change in their expressions. The former had been to the Sky Martial Pavilion once before, and this time, she had brought 3 people to leave their names there, which had nothing to do with her. The latter was attracted by the aura of the Sky Martial Pavilion. In Yi Chen's eyes, the mountain peak and the Sky Martial Pavilion were like a godly sword that could pierce through the sky. That aura was like a sword chi, piercing through the sky, which was extremely horrifying. Shoo! The Iron Feather Eagle dove into the clouds, approaching the Sky Martial Pavilion quickly. Iron Feather Eagle. They are from the mysterious martial school. It should be Yang Fengfeng from the Phoenix Martial School who had brought her brother and sister disciples to leave their names there. At the foot of the mountain, someone had recognized the Iron Feather Eagle and Yang Fengfeng. They did not fly directly to the pavilion, but instead, Yang Fengfeng ordered the eagle to land on a flat ground at the foot of the mountain. Yang Fengfeng, how have you been? A bald teenager with a powerful aura walked over with his brother and sister disciples. Yang Fengfeng laughed. Hi Wuya, did you bring your brother and sister disciples here to leave their names? Indeed. The bald teenager named Hai Wuya glanced at Yi Chen and the other 2. Your mysterious martial school already had 2 people who left their names on the wall. I did not expect that there would be 3 more this time. He. Brother and sister disciples have worked hard. Yang Fengfeng maintained the smile on her face the whole time. Then, I will go first. There are so many people here. Hai Wuya led the group and left. This is Hai Wuya. Ling Tianhao stared at Hai Wuya's back. Yang Fengfeng said, yeah, he is extremely powerful, no weaker than me. He is ranked 10th on the wall. Oh, right, maybe you guys do not know much about the wall yet. It is a magical wall. Later on, you guys will only need to pour your soul power into it, and it will form an independent mental consciousness body in the mental world inside the wall. It will have 30% of your power, and your opponent will be a virtual mental consciousness body with the same power. Once you beat a virtual one, you will be able to enter the next level, where the virtual mental consciousness body experience will be doubled, and so on and so forth. Remember, do not try to show off. If the mental consciousness body is wounded, it will make you think that you are wounded subconsciously, which will affect your real body. The more wounded the mental consciousness body is, the more the real body will be affected. There have been cases of real bodies falling in the past. Chapter 563. Mental Consciousness Body. Yi Chen's eyebrows twitched. Most of the information that the Battle King had sent into his head was related to training, so Yi Chen knew what it was. To be more specific, the mental consciousness body was something that came out of a mother body with a soul. It did not have a consciousness, and it was similar to a mental projection. However, in terms of complexity, it was much more powerful, and the power it could carry would be way more powerful as well. Of course, the Battle King had not trained a mental consciousness body yet. Therefore, Yi Chen did not know much about it, but he had a general idea. Let's go up. Yang Fengfeng led the way up the mountain. The path leading to the top of the Sky Marshal Pavilion was a 10,000 meters long and 100 meters wide staircase. After every 1,000 steps, there would be a spacious staircase. The second he stepped on the staircase, he finally realized why no one had flown up directly. The whole mountain was covered with a layer of invisible seal, and there was no way to use the air as a stepping stone. All he could do was walk up step by step. After a whole 15 minutes, the four finally got to the top from the foot of the mountain. So many people. Stepping through the gates of the Sky Marshal Pavilion, the four of them were greeted by a spacious and magnificent plaza. In the middle of the plaza, there was a 100-foot-tall screen wall. Surrounding the screen wall were hundreds of young men and women who were younger than 40 years old. The pavilion only opens once a year, so it is normal for there to be a lot of people. Yang Fengfeng had already gotten used to it. The wall was very tall, and the four could see all the names on it at first glance. Dugu Ju, number 1, Dan Tai Mingyu, number 2, Yang Fengfeng, number 5. Indeed, Yang Fengfeng was ranked number 5. Being able to be ranked number 5 out of 1,000 names, her potential was already shocking enough. Yang Fengfeng explained, ranked number 1 and 2 are the top 2 martial geniuses of the Sky Marshal region. They might not be the most powerful among the young generation, but they are definitely the most talented. Look at the color of the names. White means within the 3rd level, blue means to the 4th and 5th level, and red means to the 6th and 7th level. If one could make it through all 7 levels, then the color would be purple. So far, only Dugu Ju and Dan Tai Mingyu had made it through the 7th level, and their names would be purple. Hearing him, Yi Chen took a closer look at the wall. On the wall, there were 2 purple names, around 50 red names, and most of the blue ones. There were more than 800 blue ones, and the white ones had decreased drastically, only around 100, which was at the bottom of the list. If you want to leave your name on the wall, you would have to at least make it to the 3rd level. The longer you can last in the 3rd level, the higher the success rate would be. As she said that, Yang Fengfeng sighed. She was the descendant of the phoenix, and her potential was unparalleled. Normally, it would not be hard for her to be ranked number 1 or 2. But, the 4 people in front of her were just too freaky, especially Dugu Ju and Dan Tai Mingyu, who had made it through all 7 levels directly. Head disciple, is it that hard? Ling Tianhao asked. Yang Fengfeng let out a breath and said, the 1st level is a virtual consciousness body with similar power as you. The 2nd level is 2, the 3rd level is 4, and the 4th level is 8. With each level, the number will double, and the difficulty will also double. Do you think it is hard? Then, the 7th level would have 64? Ling Tianhao gasped, and even Miao Yin and Yi Chen looked serious. Yang Fengfeng said with a low voice, the wall tests battling techniques, mental power, and potential after being pushed to the extreme. Although cultivation and power have some effect, it would be suppressed to a very small extent. After all, the virtual consciousness body inside has the same power as you. If you are more powerful, it would be more powerful as well. I wonder what rank I would be able to get. Before coming here, Ling Tianhao was full of confidence. But now, he was only left with pressure and battle intent. Yi Chen understood what Yang Fengfeng meant. The wall tested one's potential, and it had nothing to do with cultivation or power. But of course, just like what Yang Fengfeng had said, although the latter two had been suppressed a lot, they still had some effect. For example, if one's power was higher, they would be able to sense more things, and their battling styles would be more unpredictable, which would increase their potential. Yi Chen, you are here as well. Right then, someone yelled out Yi Chen's name. Yi Chen turned around and saw the Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan and the Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun. The two had both reached the Sea of Souls realm, just like him, at peak level early Sea of Souls realm. A smile appeared on his face as Yi Chen said, "What a coincidence." Li Xiaoyun said, "It is not a coincidence at all." Yi Chen chuckled. Li Xiaoyun was right, it was not a coincidence at all. The two reaching the Sea of Souls realm did not surprise him too much, since they had reached the peak level late astral reaching realm before him. They could make the breakthrough at any time. Plus, the Sky Marshal Pavilion only opened once a year, so it would not be a coincidence at all to run into them here. Where is Chu Zhongtian? The relationship between Yi Chen and Chu Zhongtian was just normal. In the beginning, there was still some conflict between them, but it had gotten better after a while. Now, it was just a competition between two people at the same level. Jing Aoshuan shook her head. He has the evil spirit body, so it would be extremely hard for him to make the breakthrough. Right now, he is still at the peak level late astral reaching realm. That is true. Yi Chen nodded. The evil spirit body trained the evil Yuan, which was a couple of times more powerful than the Zhen Yuan. It would be extremely hard for him to make the breakthrough. But of course, once he made the breakthrough, his power would increase drastically as well. At the astral reaching realm, he would be extremely powerful, and once he reached the Sea of Souls realm, he would only be even more powerful. In other words, Chu Zhongtian was born with good luck, and he would only get more and more powerful. Perhaps once he reached the Sea of Souls realm, Jing Aoshuan and Li Xiaoyun would not be able to compete with him anymore, unless they had some kind of great luck. This Wall of Fame is also a battlefield, a soundless battlefield. Li Xiaoyun suddenly sighed as he stared at the name on the wall in a daze. Yi Chen was not familiar with these people's names, but Li Xiaoyun was very familiar with them. He saw the names of the top warriors of the young generation in the southern regions. Some of them were the hosts of the previous tea gatherings, but their rankings were very low, below 500. Only one of them could make it into the top 100. The wall could test 10 people at a time, and there was no time limit. Of course, although it was said to be unlimited, it was actually very limited. If one spent too much time in the beginning, their spirit, qi, and soul would not be able to keep up, which would shorten the time. Haha. This time, I finally made it into the top 1000. An ordinary-looking teenager saw his name at the end of the wall after finishing his test, and his face was full of excitement. Everyone's attention was drawn over. Hey! Yi Chen frowned. He saw two familiar people. They were the East Demon Xiejiqiu and One-Blade Ling Luohan, who had caused a huge commotion in the tea gathering. These two had also entered the Sea of Souls realm. Leaving an empty spot, One-Blade Ling Luohan walked up and began his test. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Ling Luohan opened his eyes. At the same time, the last 100 names on the wall moved back one by one, and Ling Luohan's name appeared at the 99th place. I have to say that Ling Luohan's potential is very high. Jing Aoshuan had lost to Ling Luohan before. Although Li Xiaoyun did not lose to Ling Luohan, he had to admit that he was not Ling Luohan's opponent in the tea gathering. As for now, he did not have the confidence to win for sure, but he did not think that he would lose for sure either. He has gone down the wrong path of the blade art. Wanting to correct it in a short period of time would be very hard. In Yi Chen's eyes, Ling Luohan's potential would not be that much weaker than Xiejiqiu's, and could even be on the same level. Unfortunately, in order to pursue the efficiency of his blade art, he had gone down the wrong path of killing with one blade attack. It was indeed an evil path that could increase his power quickly, but it would also leave behind a lot of problems, which would slow down his progress in the future. The East Demon Xiejiqiu has started his tests. A skinny teenager said, "The East Demon Xiejiqiu is quite famous among the young generation of the Sky Marshal region. After reaching the Sea of Souls realm, he already has the power to compete with most of the top young warriors. I wonder what his rank would be. It should be very high." Du Guju and Dantai Mingyu had reached the Sea of Souls realm last year. They were the top of the young generation back then. Although their power would not be able to reach the top of the young generation, their potential would be unbeatable. Potential and power were two different things. A high potential did not mean that one's current power was high, and a high power did not mean that one's potential was high. The former would still need some time to increase their power, while the latter would have enough time. But the potential was obviously not there, and the former would eventually catch up. Kill. In that quiet world, Xie had passed 3 levels in a row and made it to the 4th level. There were 8 mental consciousness bodies in the 4th level, and each of them had the same power as him. The good thing was that the 8 of them did not have perfect teamwork. In fact, if they did, then there would be no way for him to fight. Even Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu would not be able to make it. In the 5th level, Xie was wounded a little, and his real body outside of the wall let out a groan. In the 6th level, Xie was killed within a second. So powerful. The real body opened its eyes, and Xie could feel that he had just suffered an internal injury that he had subconsciously caused. Looking up at the ranking on the wall, a smile appeared on Xie face. Xie, number 22. In the past, although he had some fame in the Sky Martial region, it was only among the younger generation. He had not risen to the top of the younger generation. Although his current strength could not compete with the other famous youths, in terms of aptitude, he was ranked 22nd in the past 10 years. This was a very high ranking, and he was very satisfied with it. Wow! He is actually ranked 22. Scary. Among all the people who participated this year, Xie potential could be ranked at least in the top 3. Some of the people around gasped. The higher the ranking, the more difficult it would be. At the same time, it also meant that he would be more powerful in battling above his realm. The East Demon Xie was indeed worthy of the title. Interesting. Hai Wuya and Yang Fengfeng nodded secretly. Although Xie potential was not as good as theirs, it was only a reference. His future achievements might not be worse than theirs. He. Xie turned his head to look at Yi Chen and the rest. When his eyes met Yi Chen's, a cold light shone out of his eyes, as if he wanted to battle. Chapter 564. On the martial tea gathering, Xie had brought the top 3 young warriors from the eastern regions with him. He thought that he would be able to beat all of the top young warriors from the southern regions without having to do anything himself. He had guessed the beginning, but could not predict the end. In the beginning, the top 3 young warriors from the eastern regions were indeed unstoppable. First, they had beaten Li Xiaoyun, then Jing Aoshuan. When it came to Chu Zhongtian, although the situation was not as good as he thought, his defense was way too powerful, and there was nothing that could be done about it. Judging from the surface, even if Chu Zhongtian did not lose, he would still be at an absolute disadvantage. In the end, it was Yi Chen's turn. As soon as Yi Chen showed up, he had easily beaten Shadowless Whip Kui Yinghao and One-Blade Ling Luohan. Even someone as powerful as Xie had lost to him without being able to fight back. The 4 had come with great power, but they had been forced back, leaving behind the legend of Yi Chen's invincibility. Xie knew that without reaching the Sea of Souls realm, he would not be able to train his demon chi power spell to a higher level. Therefore, it would be hard for him to beat Yi Chen. Therefore, after returning to the eastern regions, he had been training hard, trying his best. Finally, he had reached the Sea of Souls realm half a year ago. In the following half a year, he had trained his demon chi power spell to the 5th level, which allowed him to increase his battling power by 5 times. Compared to the astral reaching realm, his power was like heaven and earth. After reaching the Sea of Souls realm, Xie's confidence had increased drastically. He had been thinking about beating Yi Chen and restoring his glory. But the Sky Martial Pavilion only opened once a year. If he missed this chance, he would have to wait for another year. Therefore, he planned to go to the pavilion to test his potential first before finding Yi Chen for revenge. What he did not expect was that Yi Chen had also come to the Sky Martial Pavilion. There was no need for him to find him at all. This time, I will beat you like a dead dog. Thinking about how he had lost, Xie tightened his fists, his face not looking very friendly. This guy is unrepentant and still wants to cause trouble for Yi Chen. Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan sneered. They did not know how powerful Yi Chen was right now, but they knew that he was already so powerful at the astral reaching realm. Wouldn't he be even more powerful after reaching the Sea of Souls realm? The test was fast. Ling Tianhao and Miao Yin also went up to take the test. After a while, the names of the two people appeared on the wall. They were respectively 285th and 276th. This was a pretty good ranking. There were so many geniuses on the continent, and it was not easy to be ranked within the top 300 in terms of aptitude. Yi Chen, let's go take the test too. There were fewer and fewer people. Li Xiaoyun walked into the testing circle first, followed by Jing Aoshuan. Yi Chen nodded and walked into one of the 10 testing circles. Yang Fengfeng, he does not seem to be from the mysterious school, right? Hai Wuya told Yang Fengfeng. Yang Fengfeng said, he is a martial genius from the South Rudra region. South Rudra region? Hai Wuya frowned. A small martial genius from the South Rudra region was being led by Yang Fengfeng herself. What a great honor. Yang Fengfeng laughed. Hai Wuya, do not underestimate him. In the battle between the martial geniuses in the Sky Martial region, he will definitely be one of the main characters. He. Hai Wuya chuckled, but did not say anything. He thought that Yang Fengfeng was just trying to trick him. The Sky Martial region was not some region or some region, it was the center of the whole continent. All of the top martial geniuses were gathered there, and it would not be easy to make a name for oneself, not to mention being one of the main characters. Yang Fengfeng did not try to explain, because she knew that it would be useless. If she wanted to convince people, she would have to show some results. Anything else would just be empty talk. It was a dead silent world, without any signs of life. On the barren land, a blurry human figure was forming, and it was getting clearer and clearer. Facial features and clothes could be seen clearly. It was indeed Yi Chen in blue robes. Right then, he looked cold and numb, as if he did not have any consciousness at all. All of a sudden, Yi Chen's numb eyes flickered, and there was a light in them. Mental consciousness bodies do not have consciousness, and must be controlled by the main body. Yi Chen had an understanding. Mental consciousness bodies also had different levels. Obviously, this was the lowest level mental consciousness body. The higher level mental consciousness bodies could grow from not having consciousness to having consciousness, which was equivalent to a real clone, and did not need to be controlled by the main body. Woo! 100 meters in front of Yi Chen, a human figure appeared. It was a sword artist in yellow robes. His cultivation and will were the same as Yi Chen's, but his face was blurry. Chem. He has a sword, but I don't. With that thought in mind, a sword appeared in Yi Chen's hand. One more. A sword appeared on Yi Chen's waist as well. Shoo. The sword artist in yellow robes charged over, throwing out a killing attack right from the start. It was a completely different attack from Yi Chen's. The sword light was sharp like a circular arc, sweeping across the sky. With a shake of his body, Yi Chen turned into a sword light, brushing past his opponent's sword light. The long sword in his hand was taken out of its scabbard, and with a flash, it was instantly extinguished. Puff! A head with an indistinguishable face flew up, and the sword artist in yellow robes slid on the ground, gradually dissipating into nothingness. One sword strike, a head flew off. The first level is not difficult. Although the virtual mental consciousness body's cultivation and will are the same as mine, its combat techniques are too standard. There is nothing special about it, and it is like a preset program. Yi Chen silently evaluated the virtual mental consciousness body's combat strength. Woo! Woo! About 3 breaths later, 2 more sword artists in yellow robes appeared. These two's faces were blurry, but their sharp gazes were like beams of light, locking onto Yi Chen. After locking onto him, it was time for a fierce attack, an attack that would not stop until one of them died. Kill! Yi Chen did not retreat or evade, but rushed toward the two. Puff! Puff! The 3 of them passed each other. The next moment, 2 heads flew into the sky, but there was no blood. The pressure is getting greater and greater. In a separate mental world, Li Xiaoyun rushed into the crowd, surrounded by a total of 16 people. These 16 people's cultivation and will were similar to his, and the power of their killing moves was not weaker than his. Even if their combat techniques were too simple, and there was no spiritual qi, they had 16 times more people than him. 16 people besieging him, the pressure was unimaginable. Bang! The iron fan closed, and Li Xiaoyun smashed the heads of 3 people in a row. However, he was punched in the back, and his body staggered out, passing through the gap between the 2 people in front of him. 7-star crossing. Suddenly turning around, Li Xiaoyun performed his trump card. Royal Extreme Tyrannical Fist. Royal Extreme World Shocking Fist. Jing Aoshuan did not blindly attack like before, and if she did not advance, she would retreat. Her body moved like lightning, wreaking havoc. With every punch, 1 person would be sent flying, and the strong power of thunder and lightning was like a chain of lightning in the starry sky, one after another. With a groan, Jing Aoshuan had suffered a serious internal injury. She was besieged by 16 people whose cultivation and will were not weaker than hers after all. Defeating them was not something impossible, but she would have to pay a heavy price as well. After the time of T.A. Who is Li Xiaoyun? He is ranked 108. And Jing Aoshuan, 95. The names on the wall flickered, and 2 more blue names appeared. They were indeed Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan. Not bad. That Jing Aoshuan is actually ranked above you. Xie Zhiqiu smiled lightly and said to Ling Luohan beside him. Ling Luohan said, their talents are indeed not weaker than mine. Although Ling Luohan was ranked above Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan, his talent was not necessarily above the 2. After all, the relationship between talent and power was not completely proportional. It was much more complicated and hard to understand. It could only be said that there was a huge relationship. The real bodies opened their eyes. Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan smiled bitterly. They had both failed in the 5th challenge. I killed 13. How many did you kill? Li Xiaoyun asked. Jing Aoshuan said, 15. That's too bad. There were 16 people in the 5th challenge. After killing 15, there was only 1 left. Yi Chen has not come out yet. Li Xiaoyun looked at Yi Chen, who was in the other testing circle. Inside the mental world of the wall, the sword light crisscrossed like a spiderweb, covering hundreds of meters of space. Some of these sword lights were from the illusory mental images, and some were from Yi Chen. The sharp sword intent seemed to want to pierce through the mental world, shooting straight up into the sky. This was a world of cold sword qi. Kill. Yi Chen had pushed his battle skills to a new level. Sometimes, he would have 1 sword in his hand, and sometimes, he would have 2 swords. In the blink of an eye, no one knew how many swords he had thrown out. They only knew that as his body flashed, the illusory mental images would fall down one after another. The remaining illusory mental images were surprisingly more than 20 of them, densely packed together. This was the 6th challenge. Yi Chen had rushed to the 6th challenge in 1 breath. His opponents were 32 illusory mental images. Facing 32 illusory mental images, although it was not easy for Yi Chen, he was not injured at all. Being able to stay uninjured in the early stage of the 6th challenge meant that he was at least in the top 15. It should be known that Xie Zhiqiu had only beaten back 1 person in the 6th challenge before being killed instantly without any chance to fight back. Yi Chen twisted his body in the air, dodging a wave of sword light. He suddenly stepped back, dodging another wave of sword light. His body turned into a shadow, moving close to the ground. Dodging another wave of sword light, Yi Chen had integrated dodging skills into his battle skills. While dodging, he was also attacking. While attacking, he was also dodging. It was hard to tell whether he was dodging or attacking. He only knew that it was impossible to lock his body. Swoosh! 3 heads flew in a straight line. Yi Chen stopped his body and turned around. All the illusory mental images had disappeared. The 7th challenge, I wonder how difficult it is. In the outside world. What? The test is not over yet. Could it be that he has reached the 6th challenge? Many people began to pay attention to Yi Chen. They could clearly see that Yi Chen had taken the test together with Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoshuan. According to the normal passing speed, he should have reached the 6th challenge by now. Of course, They did not expect that Yi Chen's passing speed was even faster than they had expected. He had already reached the 7th challenge. Amazing. As long as he could hold on for a while in the 6th challenge, he would be able to enter the top 15. If he could pass the 6th challenge, he would have a chance to enter the top 10. You should know that the higher you go, the more difficult it is, and the fewer people there are. It is impossible to pass the 6th challenge. On the wall of names, only 9 people have passed the 6th challenge and entered the 7th challenge. The 6th challenge was light red in color, and the 7th challenge was dark red. On the wall of names, besides Du Guju and Dantai Mingyu, only 9 people had dark red names. One could imagine how difficult it was to reach the 7th challenge. Chapter 565. Interesting. Hai Wuya chuckled, starting to pay more attention to Yi Chen. A genius who could reach the 6th level definitely couldn't be ignored. Indeed, there was a big gap between the 6th and 7th level, and he and Yang Fengfeng were both geniuses who had reached the 7th level. However, a genius who had reached the 6th level might not be much inferior to them in the future. After all, if the difference in talent wasn't too big, it was still possible to catch up. Talent was only a general reference, and couldn't be taken too seriously. How is it? Yang Fengfeng glanced at Hai Wuya and said. Hai Wuya said, his talent is indeed very high, not too far from us. He might even catch up. But, if he wants to become one of the main characters of the battle, he's still a bit lacking. His unbreakable gold resonant radiant sword art had been unleashed right from the start, contend against creating a golden sword light in the middle of the crowd. Yet. 3 heads flew up. Yang Chen suddenly restrained his breath and turned into a black shadow, and whether he could reach slid along the ground and shuttled through the crowd. Began. At the moment when he moved close to the ground, at least 7 or 8 black shadows crossed each other. The sound of spatial fluctuations directly left black marks in the air. As the sounds rang out, Chen's speed was a little bit slower, or his reaction was a little bit slower together that it was hesitated even a little bit more. In the blink of an eye, to kill, 64 yellow-robed sword artists by those 7 or 8 sword in front of Yi Chen. What seemed like a flash of lightning sword artists contained too many lifeless. The sword chi coiling around their bodies was extremely powerful, and there was no room for mistakes. The sword chi of 64 yellow-robed sword artists 61 yellow-robed sword artists causing numerous fine sword scars exposing to appear on the barren land, and
Yi
a formless
Chen
shockwave
and
stuck
stuck
to the back of a
Chop.
yellow-robed sword
If it were
artist
an ordinary
like a shadow.
person,
They
Pooh.
would definitely
That
dodge
sword
at top
artist
speed
fell
and
down,
look for an
but he
opportunity
did not
to break
die
them
in the
down
hands
one
of
by
Yi
one.
Chen.
Even
Instead,
if the chance wasn't
he died
big,
in the hands
it would
of
still
other
be better than
yellow-robed
facing
sword artists.
64 sword artists
The intense
all at
shockwave
once.
blew away
If
Yi Chen,
64 sword
but it also
artists
blew
with
him to the
cultivation
back of
base
another
and willpower
yellow-robed
that were
sword
not
artist.
inferior to one's
One
own
after
launched a round
another,
of attacks,
the yellow-robed
no one
sword
would be able
artists
to block
fell
it,
down,
and they would
if they
certainly
had
be
their own
annihilated.
consciousness.
However,
They would definitely
Yi Chen
have
did
died
the
a
opposite.
miserable death.
He withdrew
Void
his
shattering
shattering
finger
finger
and
and used
yellow-robed
his sword
sword
like
artists
flying
all
art.
spread out.
His
And Yi
speed
Chen,
soared to the
who could
limit
no
as
longer
he
find
crazily
anything to
charged
hide,
toward the
pointed
crowd
his
of sword
finger at the
artists.
two yellow-robed sword
Swish,
artists
swish,
closest to him.
swish.
That huge
The
blue
dozens of
finger
sword
ignored
artists
the
at the
distance
very
between
front
them
raised
and
their
pressed them down
hands,
on the
and
ground,
their long
rubbing
swords
the ground
sprinkled
as it
out
rushed
crescent-shaped
forward,
sharp
knocking
sword
away
chi.
3 or 4
They
yellow-robed
interweaved
sword
together
artists
and
who
shot
were about
toward
to
Yi
launch a
Chen
new
like a
round of
huge
attacks.
net.
Pop!
Boom.
On
The
the way,
shockwave spread
Yi
out
Chen
wantonly,
suddenly accompanied
accelerated.
by sharp sword
This was
chi
his
flying
true
everywhere.
maximum speed.
The whole area
Dozens
was
of beams of
constantly being
sword chi
cut by
sliced
sword
behind
chi,
him,
bringing
still
up
not
waves
out.
of space
He
ripples.
must have reached
At
the
the same
7th
time,
level.
he himself
As time
passed
through the gaps
the
of the sword
contestants
chi,
finished their
his long
tests one
sword
after
after
its
another.
scabbard in a second.
More and more gazes fell on Yi Chen, and he immediately became the focal point. The 7th level has 64 mental consciousness bodies with the same cultivation base and will. Apart from Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu, there are only 9 people who can reach this level. From today onwards, it will be 10. Where did he come from? With such a high aptitude, it's impossible not to have heard of him before. He was brought by Yang Fengfeng. Phoenix sect Yang Fengfeng. No wonder. Everyone discussed among themselves, glancing at Yi Chen, then at Yang Fengfeng. Yang Fengfeng's reputation in the Sky Martial region was extremely great. In terms of identity, she was the head disciple of one of the 9 great sects. In terms of strength, she was already a Sea of Soul Master, known as the Phoenix Master. In terms of speed, she was the number 1 in Sea of Soul Realm. Yang Fengfeng's reputation in the Sky Martial region was not inferior to those famous young tycoons. How could the people she brought be weak? Hai Wuya's expression changed for the first time. He really didn't expect Yi Chen to be able to reach the 7th level. It seemed like he was still fighting in the 7th level without any signs of failure. Am I starting to believe what you're saying? Sucking in a deep breath, Hai Wuya retracted his gaze from Yi Chen and smiled bitterly, then said slowly, even if he is not one of the main characters of the battle, he will still be an important supporting character. There would only be a few main characters. The important supporting characters couldn't be ignored either. Sometimes, their role might not be any less than that of the main character. A scene was born between the main character and the important supporting characters. He actually made it to the 7th level. Xie Zhiqiu clenched his fists, not daring to believe his own eyes. He thought that he and Yi Chen were only a few millimeters apart, and that he could surpass him at any time. But reality had slapped him in the face, leaving him speechless. Ling Luohan didn't say anything. Yi Chen's astonishing performance was within his expectations. He didn't like Xie Zhiqiu, but he admired Yi Chen. On the other side, Li Xiaoyun and Jing Aoxuan sighed inwardly. In the southern regions, perhaps only Chu Zhongtian with his evil spirit body could be compared to Yi Chen. Of course, the premise was that Chu Zhongtian could catch up quickly and not be left too far behind. Otherwise, no matter how powerful his evil spirit body was, it would still be useless. Time passed bit by bit, and only the last batch of contestants remained. The 7th level is indeed dangerous. Every step is filled with killing intent. Yi Chen had never pushed himself to this point. Facing the encirclement of so many yellow-robed sword artists, his spirit, chi, and soul were maintained at their peak, not daring to relax in the slightest. He was clear that even the slightest bit of carelessness would result in his death. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Sword light crisscrossed, interweaving into a web. Yi Chen was like a flying insect shuttling in the web, struggling with all his might, seeking a chance to survive. Meanwhile, those yellow-robed sword artists were like spiders in the web, forming groups of 3 to 5, constantly spitting silk at Yi Chen. At this moment, the 7th level had taken more time than the previous 6 levels combined, and there were still more than half of the yellow-robed sword artists left. Dual sword style. Crossing the 2 swords, Yi Chen sent a yellow-robed sword artist flying. However, he couldn't kill him, because there were several yellow-robed sword artists' pincer attacking him. Shoo! Without any hesitation, Yi Chen flew back into the air. His Zhun Yuan reversed, and his body became like a mountain. Under the pull of gravity, he descended at an extreme speed. Boom! 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 Like fireworks, dozens of sword chi clashed together in the sky. This is really pushing me to the limit. Yi Chen's spirit was stretched taut. He had already displayed extraordinary strength, but the danger was getting more and more intense. If killing people in the 6th level was easy, then killing people in the 7th level would require 2 or even 3 or 4 times the effort. Here, killing or being killed was only a matter of a thought. Peng! Stepping on the shoulder of a yellow-robed sword artist, Yi Chen's body twisted, bringing the yellow-robed sword artist's body along as he spun like a tornado. Then, with a hook of his left leg, the latter's body involuntarily flew out and was sliced into 4 pieces by 3 sword chi. The time taken was too much, but it caused a huge uproar outside. How long is this going to last? Could it be that he's preparing to pass? Last year, Du Guju and Dantai Mingyu spent half a day. It's easy to imagine how frightening the 7th level's difficulty is. It's already been half a day. While everyone was dumbfounded, Hai Wuya and Yang Fengfeng's expressions turned serious as well. They were the ones who had passed through the 7th level, so they knew very well what kind of situation it was. Although the number of mental consciousness bodies had doubled after each level, it was still within the acceptable range after all. However, at the 7th level, the number of people had suddenly increased from 32 to 64. This kind of difficulty was no longer just doubling. It was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Every additional person would be a kind of torture, and the addition of 32 people would be simply hopeless. Yang Fengfeng was ranked 5th, but she had only killed 6 people. Hai Wuya, on the other hand, had killed 4. Apart from Du Guju and Dantai Mingyu, they didn't think anyone could kill more than 10 people in the 7th level. But now, Yi Chen's appearance might break this rule. I didn't think he could make it this far either. Yang Fengfeng let out a deep breath. When her master told her that Yi Chen would have a shocking achievement, she was skeptical. After all, in the Sky Martial region, she had seen way too many martial geniuses, and Yi Chen was not one of them. Hai Wuya said, "The appearance of Du Guju and Dantai Mingyu is already shocking enough, comparable to your master Xian Hu. If another one appears, this era will definitely rise to another level, and become a rare era." Deep down in his heart, he did not think that Yi Chen would be able to make it through, because he did not believe that there would be 3 martial geniuses in this world at the same time. Although these 3 martial geniuses had not grown up yet, and could not compete with the top young warriors, with their great potential, they would only need time to build up their achievements. Chapter 566. 45th. Slaughter, endless slaughter. Yi Chen had never experienced such a ferocious battle. This battle had pushed him to his limits again and again. His nerves were stretched like steel wires, ready to snap at any moment. He knew that he couldn't afford to have the thought of taking a breather. From the beginning of the battle until now, he had been holding his breath. If he let it out, it would truly be over. He would be utterly defeated in an instant. At this moment, he greatly admired Du Guju and Dantai Mingyu. Since these 2 could pass the 7th level, their aptitudes were certainly frightening. Fighting across realms was as easy as eating and drinking, extremely simple. 46. Swinging his sword with his left hand to block the slash of a yellow-robed sword artist, Yi Chen raised his right hand. Sword light spilled out, and the opponent's head was sent flying. Rip! At the same time, Yi Chen shifted his position, dodging the sword light coming from behind. Although the sword light didn't hit Yi Chen, its aura left a clear mark on Yi Chen's shoulder. 47th. Dodging most of the incoming sword lights, Yi Chen spun in the air. His hands holding the 2 swords were like 2 wind wheels, intertwining sword lights shooting out. Wherever they went, the ground was riddled with holes, and the air was filled with sword marks. It was a scene of devastation. Puff! The yellow-robed sword artist closest to Yi Chen was devoured by the intertwining sword lights, sliced into dozens of pieces, and dissipated into nothingness. I've consumed too much power. After using this move, Yi Chen's complexion turned slightly pale, and blue veins popped out on his forehead. The power of consciousness avatars was not limitless. From the first level until now, he had killed 110 consciousness avatars. These avatars had the same cultivation base and will as him. Killing one was not easy, especially in the 7th level. Killing one was equivalent to killing 2 or 3 avatars in the 6th level. The difficulty had doubled, and the consumption was enormous. Even with his Sea of Soul Realm cultivation base, he couldn't bear such consumption. Fortunately, the yellow-robed swordsman had also expended a lot of energy, and his condition had deteriorated. Otherwise, if this had continued, Yi Chen would not have been able to hold on. Retreating swiftly, Yi Chen took a deep breath and pointed a finger at the dense sword light that was coming at him. Bang! The gigantic cyan finger grew stronger and stronger, forcibly blasting away the threat. 48th, 49th. Borrowing strength from the void, Yi Chen advanced instead of retreating. With extreme speed, his body trembled, turning into dozens of shadows that engulfed the 2 yellow-robed swordsmen. With a flash of sword light, the 2 swordsmen fell to the ground. Hiss! Around the Wall of Fame, gasps could be heard. It's been 8 hours since he started the test. Even if he doesn't pass the 7th stage, he will definitely be ranked 3rd or 4th. Everyone's expression changed. Among them, the majority had stopped at the 5th stage, and only a few had made it to the 6th stage. If the 5th stage was already this hard, then the difficulty of the 7th stage would be beyond their imagination. Otherwise, how could only Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu pass the 7th stage and look down on all the other geniuses? This guy. Yang Fengfeng smiled bitterly. As a descendant of the Phoenix, she was not inferior to anyone in terms of talent. But, she was only ranked 5th, being suppressed by the top 4. And now, she couldn't even maintain her 5th position, and was about to fall to the 6th. It was simply incomprehensible. In fact, Yang Fengfeng had still underestimated her own talent. This wall of names was used to test humans, and as a blue phoenix, it was inevitable that it would be biased. After all, humans and beasts were different in many aspects, and could not be treated as the same. Therefore, Yang Fengfeng's potential was similar to that of humans, and her potential as a beast was not completely tested, or perhaps only a part of it had been tested. Blue Phoenix could be mentioned in the same breath as the ancient 9-headed snake. Even if her talent was not as good as Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu, it would not be too far off. Yang Fengfeng, we can't let go of this kind of genius. Although our team is not weak, it will still be hard to compete with those top young warriors teams. With him joining us, our team will definitely be a lot more powerful. Plus, he is still growing. Hai Wuya smiled at Yang Fengfeng. Yang Fengfeng said, of course. There were countless geniuses gathered in the Sky Marshal region. Walking in any random city, one could run into some geniuses. Geniuses were all very prideful, so it would be hard for them to not see eye to eye with each other. After a long time, small conflicts would gradually turn into hatred, and they would view each other as enemies. And, there was strength in numbers. Even if you wanted to fight fairly with others, others might not necessarily fight fairly with you. If you didn't want to lose out, then you would have to have your own team and faction. In that case, regardless of whether it was fair or not, others would not be able to bully you. There were strong and weak factions, and Yang Fengfeng and Hai Wuya's faction could be ranked in the top 10. Unfortunately, besides the 2 of them, there were no other powerful figures. Yi Chen was undoubtedly the best candidate in their eyes. With him joining, they would be able to compete with those top young warriors factions in a couple of years. Plus, Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu were not to be trifled with either. The 2's potential was horrifying. 59. Borrowing the momentum of falling, Yi Chen descended from the sky and slashed fiercely at the head of a yellow-robed sword artist. The sword blade streaked across the forehead, and the yellow-robed sword artist was cut in 2. Half. With only 5 yellow-robed sword artists left, Yi Chen took the opportunity to take a deep breath, calming his nerves that had been stretched to the limit. Shua, 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 Shua. These 5 yellow-robed sword artists were not afraid of death as they attacked Yi Chen from 5 different angles. Before they even arrived, their sharp sword chi was already like a bone-scraping steel blade. Unending nature. Following an unimaginable trajectory, Yi Chen turned around and passed through the gaps of the sword chi, piercing through the neck of the yellow-robed sword artist on the side. He then pulled out his long sword and drew a beautiful arc in the air, cutting off the top of another yellow-robed sword artist's head. Only 3 left. At this point in the battle, Yi Chen was almost exhausted. The power in his mental consciousness was almost squeezed out and was no longer vigorous. Of course, the yellow-robed sword artist's battle strength was also greatly damaged. After all, they did not have much consciousness. Once their power was weakened, their battle strength would also be weakened. This made it easier for Yi Chen to kill them. Retreat. 2 swords crossed, 1 straight and 1 reverse. 2 crescent sword chi formed a hemisphere and knocked away 2 yellow-robed sword artists who were taking advantage of the situation. At the same time, the little finger of Yi Chen's right hand that was holding the sword hilt curled up, and a ray of lotus heart sword chi shot out, piercing the forehead of another yellow-robed sword artist. At the crucial moment, this yellow-robed sword artist shifted his body, using his shoulder to replace his forehead. Kai. With his shoulder injured, other than a slight pause in his body, he did not feel anything else. Lifelessly, he pounced at Yi Chen, waving his long sword flawlessly. Rumble. Yi Chen stomped on the ground, and a hidden force drilled into his opponent's foot, exploding violently. This was the earth explosion and sky shock that Yi Chen had used earlier. Although the earth explosion and sky shock couldn't heavily injure the yellow-robed sword artist, it still made him stagger and sway. Die. With a flick of his right wrist, Yi Chen mercilessly cut his opponent's body in half. His exhaustion was getting worse. Yi Chen gritted his teeth and rushed out while sticking close to the ground, his long hair fluttering in the wind. One of the 2 remaining yellow-robed sword artists rushed up, the long sword in his hand clashing with Yi Chen's long sword. Unfortunately, Yi Chen's momentum was fierce, and he pushed his opponent several miles away. Blazing sparks exploded between the 2, soaring into the sky. The barren land cracked open, and Yi Chen blasted his opponent into the ground. His valiant fighting style changed Yi Chen's temperament. Turning around, Yi Chen looked at the yellow-robed sword artist. It's over. Stabbing the long sword in his left hand into the ground, Yi Chen took a deep breath. He didn't know where his exhausted body got strength from, but it flowed through the virtual meridians in his body and into his arms. The muscles on his arms suddenly swelled up, becoming sharp and angular like they were forged from steel. Bang! There were no fancy moves, just a straight slash. Yi Chen held his sword with both hands and slashed his opponent into the ground, burying half of his body in the ground. Without waiting for his opponent to react, another slash came down. This slash was simple, but it seemed to carry all of Yi Chen's concentration. It instantly broke the long sword raised above the yellow-robed sword artist's head. The long sword broke, and the yellow-robed sword artist fell. Sheathing his sword, Yi Chen looked around, only to see the boundless barren land in ruins. If the yellow-robed sword artist had a physical body, he would definitely be covered in corpses, and blood would flow like a river. Wang. Yi Chen's figure gradually became blurry, and finally, like the yellow-robed sword artist, he disappeared into nothingness. In the testing circle near the wall, Yi Chen's main body opened his eyes. There was a faint trace of fatigue, and his body was even showing signs of numbness. When everyone saw that Yi Chen had woken up, their scalps went numb. They hurriedly looked at the wall, and the 3rd name on the first row was actually Yi Chen's name. A purple name. 3rd place, purple name. He passed all 7 rounds. Scary, other than Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu, who would have thought that another monstrous talent would appear. This is big news. Everyone couldn't control their emotions, and they started discussing fervently. He passed. Hai Wuya had a look of disbelief on his face. Passed. He is as famous as Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu. Yang Fengfeng knew that the 3rd place was actually no different from the 1st and 2nd place. The reason why Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu could be in front was because they had taken the test a year earlier than Yi Chen. If it were Yi Chen taking the test first, then Yi Chen would be the first place. Therefore, as long as it was a purple name, the talent would be the same. It was just that the ranking would be different. Xie Zhiqiu, you can't compete with him. Ling Luohan forced a smile and said to the absent-minded Xie Zhiqiu. Clenching his right fist, Xie Zhiqiu stared at Yi Chen. Originally, he wanted to have a battle with Yi Chen after the talent test and wash away his previous humiliation. But now, he didn't have the slightest bit of confidence. He had been instantly killed in the 6th round, and Yi Chen had passed the 7th round. The gap between them was too big. There will be plenty of opportunities to wash away his previous humiliation. I don't believe that he can maintain his advantage forever. Chapter 567. Yi Chen did not know what Xie Zhiqiu was thinking, but even if he did, he would not care. In fact, running into Xie Zhiqiu here was not a big deal to him at all. If Xie Zhiqiu insisted on looking for trouble, then he would have to give him a taste of his own medicine and teach him a lesson. Right then, the benefit of training the first level of his undying body secret art, flesh recovery, had finally arrived. His body was obviously sore and numb a second ago, and his meridians were slightly damaged. But in the next second, all these hidden wounds had been healed up completely. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen turned around and walked toward Yang Fengfeng and the rest. Congratulations, junior brother Yi. Yang Fengfeng smiled. Luck. Yi Chen had already seen his ranking. Your luck is indeed impressive. Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu have been fighting for a long time, and now, you are added to the mix. Dugu Ju and Dantai Mingyu were known as the twin stars of the Sky Martial region. Adding Yi Chen, it would be 3 stars, which would be even more spectacular. Hai Wuya walked over and said to Yi Chen with his fists held together, I am the head disciple of the Sky Ocean Martial School, Hai Wuya. I am a good friend of Yang Fengfeng. Brother Yi, let's meet up more often in the future. Although the Sky Ocean Martial School was not one of the top 9 martial schools, it was still a very powerful rank 5 martial school. As the head disciple of the school, Hai Wuya had personally come to befriend Yi Chen, which meant that he had already considered Yi Chen as a very important person. Yi Chen was not the kind of person who would keep people at arm's length. Since people were trying to befriend him, he had no reason to reject them. Plus, Hai Wuya and Yang Fengfeng seemed to be good friends, so their personalities should be guaranteed. Therefore, the two got to know each other for a while before starting to chat. There are countless forbidden places in the true spirit continent. Some of them have already been discovered, and some have yet to be discovered. Among these forbidden places, there are some that even life and death realm warriors would have to think twice before going there. There are also some even more terrifying forbidden places that could kill life and death realm warriors. Of course, most of them are forbidden places that are suitable for us to explore. If there is a chance, we can all explore together and try to minimize the danger. Another benefit of being part of the Genius faction was that they could explore together. If only one person explored, the benefits would indeed be maximized, but the danger would also be infinitely greater. With more people, they could look out for each other. After all, a dead genius was no longer a genius. Definitely. Yi Chen did not reply half-heartedly. He had already heard about the dangers of the forbidden places. Not to mention him, who was only a normal Sea of Souls Realm Master level warrior, even a famous Sea of Souls Realm Master level warrior would face great danger when entering the forbidden places. In comparison, the Blood Demon battlefield seemed much safer. Since the test is over, let's descend the mountain together. Yang Fengfeng laughed. Hearing her, the group of people left the Sky Martial Pavilion and walked down the mountain. On a hill near the Sky Martial Pavilion, 5 young men had appeared out of nowhere. They were all at the Sea of Souls realm, with the lowest being at peak level early Sea of Souls realm and the highest being at peak level mid Sea of Souls realm. There were 2 people in the lead. The one on the left was a handsome young man with green hair, wearing a green leather armor and a red cape. The one on the right looked very old, with grey hair and a battle blade on his back. Before he even moved, An invisible blade aura surrounded the area, causing the plants to wither. Right next to the two was a slightly older young man in grey robes. He looked a bit similar to Yuan Yi and Yuan Hao, with bulky bones and a very aggressive aura. Yuan Jie, I heard that your Yuan family had suffered a big loss a couple of months ago. Your nephew Yuan Yi had not only been robbed of his fiancée, but he had also been wounded badly. The handsome young man had a good relationship with the young man in grey robes, so he did not hold back his words at all. The young man in grey robes said coldly, He is lucky that I ran into him. I will make him kneel down and beg for mercy. The young man in grey robes was Yuan Yi's youngest uncle, Yuan Jie. He was 38 years old this year, and had been traveling around the world for years. Later on, he got together with the handsome young man and joined the latter's faction. 2 months ago, he had returned to the Yuan family and found out about this. He was so mad that his face turned green, and he swore to himself that he would teach Yi Chen a lesson. As for how the handsome young man found out about this, he did not know either. The two had agreed to meet here, and they had just bumped into each other. All right, you and Lin Ku wait here. I will take my brother disciple to test his potential. As he spoke, the handsome young man took a step forward, leading the other two toward the Sky Marshal Pavilion on the mountain. On the stairs, the handsome young man and the other two ran into Yi Chen's group. I was wondering who it was. It is Yang Fengfeng from the Phoenix Martial School and Hai Wuya from the Ocean Martial School. The handsome young man had recognized Yang Fengfeng and Hai Wuya, so he chuckled. Hai Wuya frowned. What a coincidence. Running into the famous Ice Spirit Martial School's Duan Lungya here. The two both had the word Lungya in their names, but they were like fire and water. Let's catch up when we have time. Thank you so much for last time. Duan Lungya was not afraid of Hai Wuya, but Yang Fengfeng was afraid of everyone. Her speed was the #1 in the Sea of Souls realm, and no one would be able to compete with her. Saying that with a bit of pride, Duan Lungya led his brother disciple and walked past Yi Chen's group. Hai Wuya's face suddenly turned cold. Last time, he had brought a group of martial geniuses from his faction to find an ancient ruin, which contained a lot of good stuff. He did not expect that Duan Lungya and the rest would follow them and take most of the things. Although he did not like Duan Lungya, he had to admit that the latter's power was slightly higher than his. Brother Hai, who is this person? Yi Chen did not know much about the martial geniuses in the Sky Martial region, which was why he asked. Yang Fengfeng helped Hai Wuya introduce. This person is the head disciple of the Ice Pavilion, one of the top 9 martial schools. People call him Duan Lungya from the Ice Spirit Martial School. Although he is not one of the most famous young warriors, he is just below them. His reputation and power are both very powerful. He had once frozen 300 miles of river with one palm attack. Jing Aoshuan and Li Xiaoyun sucked in a breath of cold air, freezing a 300-mile river with only one palm attack. This kind of power was beyond their imagination. It seemed like they still had a long way to go. At least, compared to those famous martial geniuses in the Sky Martial region, there was still a huge gap between them. Arriving at the foot of the mountain, Hai Wuya was about to say goodbye to Yang Fengfeng and Yi Chen and bring his brother and sister disciples back to the martial school. Yi Chen, stay. A loud yell was heard, shaking the whole area. Not far away, a grey shadow flew over and landed on the empty ground 100 meters away. It was a young man in grey robes with 2 sword sticks on his back. Yi Chen turned his head and looked at him. His aura is a bit similar to Yuan Yi and Yuan Hao. Are you from the Yuan family? Yi Chen knew what was going on immediately. Although there were a lot of young warriors who came to the Sky Martial Pavilion to take the test, it was already afternoon, and most of the people who came to take the test had already left. There were not many people left. Therefore, once Yi Chen arrived at the foot of the mountain, he was noticed by Yuan Jie. You are from the Yuan family? Yi Chen asked. Yuan Jie glanced at Hai Wuya and Yang Fengfeng with a bit of fear. Before, he had only noticed Yi Chen, but did not expect that there would be 2 famous young martial geniuses right next to him. Indeed. I am Yuan Yi's uncle, Yuan Jie. Yi Chen, you are so despicable. How dare you break into our Yuan family and hurt my nephew? If you do not give me an explanation today, don't even think about leaving. What are you? Stop yelling. Hai Wuya was not happy. That gentle temperament of his suddenly changed. With him as the center, the whole world seemed to have turned into a vast ocean, oppressing all of the young warriors who were watching from the side. They all backed out with a shocked expression on their faces. Yuan Jie, who was in the front, had a pale face as he backed out a couple of steps. Hai Wuya, this is between me and Yi Chen. I hope you will not get involved. Yuan Jie took a deep breath and said with a low voice. I will give you 3 breaths time. Leave now. Hai Wuya did not give him any face at all. Yuan Jie's expression was extremely bad as he looked at Hai Wuya with hatred. Yuan Jie, what is it? Right at that moment, a warrior flew over from the sky. As he moved toward them, a wave of withered blade aura spread out like lightning, splitting apart Hai Wuya's ocean aura. The ground under everyone's feet started to wither and turn black. Hai Wuya's aura has combined the profound of water, and this guy's blade aura has combined the profound of withering plants. This is a realm that I have yet to step into. Yi Chen knew that there was still a big gap between him and the two. The path of martial Dao would never have an end, and he had only just started. Either Hai Wuya or this blade artist could easily beat him, and he could tell from their auras. Withered Blade School's Lin Ku. Hai Wuya's eyes squinted. The grey-haired teenager glanced at Hai Wuya and Yang Fengfeng before landing on Hai Wuya. Were you the one who told Yuan Jie to leave just now? So what if I was? Just because of this sentence of yours, you will have to leave something behind today. Others might be afraid of your Withered Blade School, but I, Hai Wuya, am not. Use whatever tricks you have. Hai Wuya was originally standing up for Yi Chen. Now that the other party was bullying him, how could he back off? I have made some progress recently. I will use you as a sacrifice to my blade. Lin Ku's tone was very calm, carrying a deathly cold killing intent. Bang! As the two's auras clashed, a volcanic aura erupted. Under this aura, everyone felt as if they could see the Earth's crust cracking open, lava rolling, and a phoenix rising from the ashes. It was Yang Fengfeng. As the head disciple of the mysterious martial school, her strength was just as powerful as her reputation. Lin Ku, I would like to experience your blade arts. With a blue flame burning between her brows, Yang Fengfeng walked out step by step. Her noble temperament made people unable to look at her directly. Under her flame-like aura, the ground around her started to smoke, and the scorch became even more intense. Even Lin Ku's blade aura was forced back. Phoenix Sect's Yang Fengfeng is indeed worthy of my blade. The blade on Lin Ku's back pulsed, as if it could be unsheathed at any moment. At the same time, waves of threatening blade chi spread out, leaving fine blade scars in the void. Lin Ku, forget it. I only want to teach that kid named Yi Chen a lesson. It has nothing to do with others. Yuan Jie knew that it was impossible for Lin Ku to fight 1 against 2. His target was Yi Chen. Hearing these words, the blade on Lin Ku's back stopped pulsing. He followed Yuan Jie's gaze and looked at Yi Chen. Yi Chen, get the hell out here. Chapter 568. Lin Ku's roar contained his all-conquering and all-withering blade aura. It was like a huge blade cleaving at Yi Chen from a distance. If struck by this invisible blade, even an expert of the same level would be battered and spiritually dispirited. Humph! Yi Chen took a step forward, and his sharp slaughter sword aura collided with the invisible blade. The air crackled, and crushed stones floated in the air. Hey! This sword aura has not combined with profound. It's an attributed sword aura. Lin Ku was astonished. His aura doesn't lose to Withered Blade Master Lin Ku at all. Hai Wuya and Yang Fengfeng exchanged a glance. They felt that they had underestimated Yi Chen. Not bad. Lin Ku sneered. Same to you. Yi Chen didn't fear his opponent's blade aura at all. His strength was indeed not Lin Ku's opponent, but suppressing him with aura was simply a dream. His peak 4th step slaughter sword spirit was comparable to a peak 5th step sword spirit, and the sword aura he emitted was also comparable to a peak 5th step sword aura. Of course, This was only a one-sided comparison. If a true life and death king were here, his aura would certainly be superior to Yi Chen's. After all, King's usage of aura was far superior to Yi Chen's. Yi Chen, do you dare to fight? Yuan Jie wasn't surprised by Yi Chen's sword aura. He had already heard from his clansmen that Yi Chen's attainments in sword intent were quite exceptional. Since sword intent was exceptional, sword aura naturally wouldn't be bad. After all, sword aura was much cruder than sword intent. It was merely a simple and barbaric eruption, used to suppress the opponent. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Yi Chen didn't fear battle. Fighting was the nature of living beings. Good. Yi Chen, I'll make you pay for the humiliation you've brought to Yuan family today. Don't blame me for not giving you face. This is what you asked for. Yuan Jie's aura suddenly erupted like a mountain, incomparably heavy. As his aura spread out, the surrounding crowd quickly retreated, leaving enough space for the two to fight. Boom. Bouncing off his knees, Yuan Jie rose from the ground. The thick sword mace on his back fell into his hands, and he fiercely smashed it down. There was nothing fancy about this mace, it was heavy and powerful. As it smashed down, a straight line of the ground caved in. Unsheathing the gold sword, Yi Chen took a deep breath and straightened his body. The sword body clashed with the mace, and the two forces crushed each other, causing the color of the sky to change continuously. Muffled thunder rumbled unceasingly, and with a final clap of thunder, the two of them separated. Didn't you want to get it back? I'm afraid you don't have the strength to do so. A golden radiance shone as Yi Chen held the sword with both hands and dashed towards Yuan Jie at an extreme speed. The golden sword in his hand drew out a golden sword light that looked like a heavenly river. The sword light became longer and longer, and the sword energy contained within it was extraordinarily terrifying. The sword fiercely hacked at Yuan Jie's sword mace. Clang! Blazing sparks blossomed like flowers. Yuan Jie let out a muffled groan as his feet left the ground and he was sent flying several li away like an arrow. Damn it! Yuan Jie stopped his body as his aura rose rapidly. If you want to get it back, I'll beat you until you don't dare to. Yi Chen's sword aura was like a rainbow as he slashed out again. Boom! Yuan Jie was sent flying several li away again. Peng 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 peng. Yi Chen was extremely horrifying when he went berserk. Inside the mental world of the Wall of Names, he had killed all the illusory consciousness. Although his power did not increase significantly, his fighting style had become much more ferocious, and his fighting techniques had become much simpler as well. Gasp! Everyone was chasing after the two. Seeing Yuan Jie being completely suppressed by Yi Chen without any power to fight back, they could not help but take in a cold breath. Yi Chen was indeed powerful, but no matter how powerful he was, he could not be more powerful than Lin Ku, Yang Fengfeng, and the others. What shocked them was Yi Chen's ferocious style. Yuan Jie was only at a slight disadvantage before being forced back repeatedly, unable to fight back at all. With this retreat, he was hundreds of li away. The only thing Yuan Jie could do was to defend with all his might. If he did not defend, then he would lose. A mountain was cut off, and Yuan Jie's arms started to bleed. Yi Chen, don't push it too far. With a roar, Yuan Jie took on Yi Chen's sword chi head-on. His back bent as black scales appeared. The moment the scales appeared, Yuan Jie's upper body doubled in size. His back bulged like an iron plate, and his clothes were torn apart instantly. Gold resonant radiance. Yi Chen's speed soared as he waved out a golden sawtooth sword light. The sawtooth sword light tore through the sky, carrying a high-frequency vibration power as it slashed toward Yuan Jie at lightning speed. A huge sound was heard, but this time, Yuan Jie only backed out 100 meters. It's my turn now. Grinning cruelly, Yuan Jie ignored the bleeding between his thumb and forefinger as he teleported while holding the thick mace, smashing it toward Yi Chen. Behind him, a black chi flow rolled out, covering half of the sky. Along with his attack, it seemed as if the entire space was moving. Clang, clang, clang. The two fought from the sky to the ground, and from the ground to the water. Wherever they went, dust and smoke filled the air, rocks shot into the sky, and mountains fell one after another. Die for me. Yuan Jie had 2 maces in total. He had only used one before, but at the critical moment, he reached behind his back with his left hand and pulled out the second thick one, sweeping it out unexpectedly. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. Yi Chen did not even look at it. He held the emerald long sword in his left hand and slashed out, clashing with the opponent's mace. Both of them are using 2 weapons. Yuan Jie is not simple. He actually managed to turn the situation around. The demi-demon family's demonic transformation ability should not be underestimated. Yuan Jie's battle power has increased by at least 10 to 20%. But the chances of him suppressing the opponent are very small. The surrounding crowd was in a heated discussion. Bang! The two separated once again. Yi Chen, to be able to force me to this degree, you should be proud. Next, I will make you kneel and beg for mercy. Yuan Jie stood on a tall mountain. The black chi flow behind him was ceaselessly rolling, seemingly brewing something. The 2 maces in his hands were suffused with a black light. Floating in the air, Yi Chen tightened his grip on the sword hilt and coldly said, "Bring it on. I will crush your extravagant hopes. You have a sharp tongue. Let's see how long you can be arrogant." Catcher. The mountain sank several meters, and cracks spread everywhere. Yuan Jie spread out his hands, and a black ball of light condensed at the tip of the 2 maces. The ball was only the size of a thumb, and it spun crazily, emitting a frightening whining sound. Amidst the whining sound, black lightning scuttled out. This move will make your blood splash 5 steps away. Demonic light wave. Swoosh. Yuan Jie shattered the mountain, and with a flicker, he appeared dozens of meters in front of Yi Chen. He raised both of his arms high, and the 2 thick maces smashed down fiercely. On the way down, the tips of the maces collided together, and with a rumbling sound, the sky suddenly darkened. The 2 black light balls at the tip of the maces fused together, turning into a black energy light wave that blasted toward Yi Chen. This energy light wave was like an angry black dragon, carrying black lightning with it. It was unstoppable, and as fast as lightning. Die. Yuan Jie's face carried a sinister smile. The Yuan family was the main family of the demi-demon family, so they had mastered a lot of demon race martial arts that had been passed down from the ancient era. The Demon Gold Flash and Demon Light Wave were 2 of them. The Demon Gold Flash had an extreme attacking power, and although the Demon Light Wave was not as powerful in this aspect, that black lightning was extremely destructive. Only a trace of it would be enough to destroy a mountain. Under the demonic light wave, Yuan Jie did not believe that Yi Chen could block it. "Break for me." Yi Chen neither retreated nor dodged. Crossing his 2 swords, he faced the black energy light wave head-on. At the place where the 2 swords crossed, there was shockingly a dark blue thunder lightning ball. This thunder lightning ball was the combination of Sky Thunder Cut and Reverse Sky Thunder Cut.